Damn it, Lucas cursed internally. They see a cash cow, and they're going to milk it for all it's worth, aren't they? Do they really think I'm a pushover? While he never started trouble, he made it a policy to finish it decisively. The timing was awful, but an investment or partnership with Titan Gaming was on the table. If he could just get to San Jose and hammer out a deal, he'd have plenty of leverage later. But why'd it have to be now? He paused, turning his head to look at the girl sleeping soundly beside him. A complicated feeling settled in his chest. When it rains, it pours. If I'm not here for her birthday, she'd be heartbroken. But some things couldn't wait. Allcade Studios was growing fast, but they were still a minnow next to a whale like Titan. He had to be realistic. They weren't offering a partnership because they couldn't live without him. They were looking for a low-risk, high-reward investment. If he played hard to get for too long, they'd just get annoyed and build their own version. It happened all the time. Lucas gently took Lily's hand and squeezed it twice. Seeing that she was still fast asleep, not disturbed by his movement, he relaxed. It had become a habit. When the pressure mounted, he'd reach for her soft hand. It was like a stress ball, and it always worked. The hand cream is definitely working. Her calluses are much better, he murmured to himself, a sudden resolve hardening in his eyes. He picked up his phone. Lucas, I have to go to San Jose. By the day after tomorrow at the latest. Jason, what about your girlfriend's birthday? You just gonna miss it? Lucas, I'll try to make it back. Try was the best he could offer. A deal this big, with a company known for playing hardball? Nailing it down in a few days was a fantasy. Jason, I've been looking into this. I think we can adjust our bottom line. We could give up a little more equity as long as we both stay majority shareholders. Here's what I'm thinking. Let me know if it works. A cascade of voice notes from Jason filled the chat, making Lucas frown. He quickly typed back. Lucas, don't send voice notes. Jason, why not? Lucas, girlfriend asleep. Jason, why the hell did I even ask? God, I'm an idiot. After a few minutes of silence, a final message popped up. Jason, fine. We'll talk in person later. Lucas set his phone aside and closed his eyes, trying to sort through the mess in his head. The afternoon sun filtered through the curtains, not glaring, but pleasantly warm on his face. He could faintly hear the steady, even rhythm of Lily's breathing beside him, a sound that was as soothing as a good buzz. Maybe it was that profound sense of peace, but before he knew it, Lucas had drifted off to sleep. About 20 minutes later, the girl beside him slowly sat up, yawning as she stretched her arms over her head. The hem of her shirt rode up, revealing a sliver of her slender, eye-catching waist. She still looked endearingly dazed. Lily had a rock-solid internal clock. Morning or afternoon, she never needed an alarm. It was a skill she'd honed since childhood. She went to rub her eyes, only to find that her right hand was held fast in Lucas's grip. He was sleeping deeply now, like a child clutching his favorite toy, refusing to let go. Lily realized she hadn't even been able to pull her hand free earlier. It finally hit her. She had actually taken a nap with Lucas, in the same bed. She'd been so nervous at first, her mind racing, debating whether she should pretend to be asleep to see if the big creep would try anything. And then, she'd just inexplicably fallen asleep. Even though he was out cold, her heart hammered her chest as she quickly straightened her shirt. It was racing. She'd lost another battle. Lily Thompson, you have zero self-control. How can you be so careless? She scolded herself internally, warning herself not to make the same mistake again. Otherwise, it was only a matter of time before he devoured her completely. After taking a moment to calm her racing heart, Lily gathered her courage. With the curiosity of an explorer discovering a new continent, she scooted closer to him. Lucas was a peaceful sleeper, still and quiet, much like his general demeanor. He wasn't even snoring. Is he having a nightmare? Why is he frowning in his sleep? She wondered in a soft whisper. She gently smoothed the crease between his eyebrows with her finger. Looking at her boyfriend's handsome face, she smiled, completely content. Oomph. Good thing I'm smarter and more observant than you. Otherwise, you'd be stuck with wrinkles. You silly boy. Lily gently stroked his hair, sticking her tongue out playfully as she whispered. She hated to admit it, but she was only brave enough to say things like this when he was asleep. Lily was about to tuck the blanket around him and get up to boil some water when she noticed a sliver of his abdomen exposed where his shirt had ridden up. His abs. She'd never been particularly interested in abs before, but on her boyfriend, they were suddenly the most fascinating thing in the world. She was only hungry for him. I really want to touch them. The thought dangled in her mind like a piece of candy. He was such a flirt all the time. It was only fair that she get a little revenge. Yes, this was revenge. With that settled, Lily reached out, her hands trembling as she lifted the hem of his shirt. The simple action was enough to make her face flush and her heart pound. She could hear it hammering in her ears. Thump, 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 thump. Lucas had let her touch them twice before, but he hadn't offered since. The truth was, she sometimes wanted to, but she was too shy to ask. A girl had to be modest, right? She couldn't just say, "Hey, lift up your shirt and let me feel your abs." Suddenly, being a girl didn't seem so great. If she were the guy and Lucas were the girl, she'd have him pinned to the bed every single day. But as it was, she was the one in danger. Life is hard, Lily sighed, as she carefully began to trace the light definition of his abs. Maybe he felt the tickle, because Lucas frowned and scratched his stomach a couple of times. The movement sent a jolt of panic through Lily. The second his arm moved, she dove under the covers, curling into a ball like a snail retreating into its shell. After a few seconds, she peeked her head out and stole a glance at him. He was still asleep. She didn't dare try again. Still wrapped in the blanket, she scooted closer and pulled his shirt back down. Her cheeks were burning. It felt like she'd been caught, doing something terrible. She was about to sneak away when Lucas's eyes fluttered open. He mumbled something and pulled the blanket up higher. "Kinda cold. I'll turn off the AC for you," Lily said, her voice full of guilt. "He must have woken up because he was cold, which means I'm the culprit." She snatched the remote and pressed the power button. The familiar beep never came. "Why isn't it working?" Lily mumbled, dumbfounded. "Don't tell me all 3 air conditioners broke at the same time. That would be too weird." "They didn't," Lucas said flatly. "You sound so sure of yourself." She couldn't help but retort. Lucas smirked. "Of course I'm sure. I didn't mess with this one." Lily tried the remote a few more times with no luck. Finally, she stood up, stepped right over Lucas's body, held the remote up close to the unit, and pressed the button again. This time it beeped. "Guess it's a problem with the remote," she guessed. At least the AC wasn't broken. Replacing a remote was cheap. Lucas swallowed hard. For some reason, when Lily had stepped over him, especially when her foot was suspended in midair, his heart had skipped a beat. Am I a pervert? No way. I'm a perfectly pure person, a modern-day gentleman. He had to be sure. Staring at her fair, smooth calves, he felt a rare wave of embarrassment. "Hey," he said quietly, "can you, step on me?" Lily whipped her head around, her expression a mix of confusion and shock. What did you say?" Lily managed, her lips trembling as she sought confirmation. Her boyfriend was getting weirder and weirder. "I said, step on me," Lucas repeated, completely shameless. "But, what?" Lucas looked her dead in the eye. "I'm verifying something." Lily, who had been a mix of startled and scared, was now completely lost. She had no idea what was going on, but he looked so serious. Hurry up, he urged. His insistence short-circuited her already overloaded brain. Where do I step?" she asked in a tiny voice. "My stomach, I guess," Lucas decided after a moment's thought. Anywhere else felt a little too weird. He was just confirming a theory, not an actual pervert. Who in their right mind has a foot fetish? "Oh." Lily let out a pathetic little sound and reluctantly extended her pale, delicate right foot, tapping her toes against his stomach like a dragonfly, skimming water. Her earlobes were scorching hot. She wanted the floor to swallow her whole. "Why am I doing this? This is so embarrassing." Lucas felt his heart stop for a second. Then a strange sense of joy washed over him. He'd always thought every part of this goofball was perfectly formed, even her ankles and feet, slender just right, with skin so soft and fair. "Wait, what am I thinking? This isn't right." "No, actually step on it," Lucas said, taking a sharp breath. "That little tap isn't enough to verify anything." Lily bit her lower lip. At this point, she could only do as he said and see this so-called experiment through to the end. She placed her foot on his stomach, barely using any force. Lucas could feel his cheeks heat up. This normally silly girl was now staring at him with a deadpan expression, lips pressed together. Combined with the aloof aura she sometimes had when she was quiet, the whole scene was a little too overwhelming. "Are you done yet?" Lily was the first to break. She felt like she was about to die from embarrassment. Her whole body was on fire, and her heart refused to slow down. Even if she couldn't pinpoint exactly what was so weird about this, her face was burning up. Lucas sighed deeply. "I'm done." No matter how much he wanted to deny it, his body didn't lie. He was definitely not normal. "So, what did you verify?" Lily asked, feeling completely drained. She sat down beside him, legs tucked under her, and tried to catch her breath. "I verified that I seemed to be a pervert," Lucas said, staring at the ceiling, utterly dejected. He used to be so judgmental of people with foot fetishes, even harshly condemning Jason and Ryan in the dorm. The memory of him calling them disgusting was still fresh in his mind. And now, he had become the very thing he hated. Don't be sad. It's okay. Lily comforted him in a soft, gentle voice, even though her own face felt like it was running a fever. Just as Lucas was feeling touched by her kindness, she looked him in the eye and added, "Besides, I already knew you were a pervert." Lucas was speechless. "You would have been better off not comforting me. I heard about it from Aaron. Some guys just like feet. It's a normal thing." Seeing how upset he was, Lily set aside any thought of scolding him. She moved closer and hugged him tightly. I won't judge you for it." It was true she wouldn't judge him, but she was also a little scared. Hidden in her closet, right now, were a pair of white stockings and a pair of black ones. She didn't even want to imagine what Lucas's reaction would be. He'd probably eat her alive. Lily shook her head forcefully, resolving to keep them hidden a while longer. Too dangerous. Meanwhile, Lucas was thinking quietly. Unlike Lily, who was worried about his feelings, he was mentally adding a new item to his bucket list. "It's fine. On the bright side, maybe I'm just a Lily Thompson-aholic," he declared, getting up to wash his face in the bathroom. The ridiculous little episode had actually lifted his spirits a bit. He still had to go discuss business later. Lily sat stunned on the bed. She wiggled the toes of both feet, then curled up, hugging her knees. Listening to the sound of running water from the bathroom, she pouted. "This guy is such a leck. How can he like every part of me?" A little while later, Lucas was ready to leave. As he reached the entryway, Lily, who had been drawing, looked up at him. Lucas started, uncharacteristically hesitant. "What is it?" Lily walked over, her bright, beautiful eyes blinking up at him. She was the very definition of sweet and adorable, and it made his heart melt. How could he possibly say, "I might miss your birthday"? "Nothing. If you're not going to the office, I'll head out." After thinking it over, he still couldn't figure out how to break the news to this goofball. The next day, around 9 in the morning, Lucas sat on the sofa, staring at the plane ticket he'd booked, a hint of melancholy in his eyes. The good news was that Titan Gaming was still eager to talk, and had even sent him a one-way ticket. The bad news was that the flight was at 1 in the afternoon. His finger hovered over Lily's contact number, but he couldn't bring himself to press it. "I should tell her in person." Just as he stood up, he heard a key turning in the lock. "I asked for the afternoon off from my part-time job, so let's go to the amusement park," Lily announced with a bright smile. "I drew a profile picture for someone and earned enough for the tickets." She proudly stepped in front of him, tilting her face up to meet his gaze. "Your girlfriend's treating you." Lucas's expression was pained. She was so uncharacteristically cheerful. She was genuinely happy. Whether it was earning money or going out with him, simple things could make her happy for a long time. Then he noticed the dark circles under her eyes and guessed she'd been up late, both researching the trip and being too excited to sleep. I have to go on a business trip." Lucas forced the words out. He wasn't a melodramatic person, but his heart genuinely ached. Lily froze for a second, then simply asked, "Where to?" "San Jose, to discuss a partnership. I might be gone for a few days." Lily nodded, and as if she hadn't said anything about the amusement park, she started reminding him to eat on time and not to drink too much. And, of course, she didn't mention her upcoming birthday. "This deal won't be easy to negotiate. I'll do my best to be back on your birthday," Lucas said with a sad smile, clenching his right fist. If they really wanted to help, they would have done it already. Right now, they're just waiting to see how much more I'm willing to give. He knew she wouldn't throw a fit, but he hadn't expected her to just wrap her arms around him. The girl saw right through his frustration. She hugged him tightly and whispered, "That's their loss. Don't be mad at them. If it were me, I'd definitely help you. And I'd marry you too. If only there were as much of a goofball as you," Lucas said with a wry smile, leaning down to kiss her. He felt a lump in his throat. Any other girlfriend would probably be at least a little upset in this situation. Honestly, he wished Lily would cry and throw a tantrum, maybe even start a fight. At least then he wouldn't feel so guilty. But this sweet girl still hadn't even learned how to be angry. It was breaking his heart. Lily looked up at him indignantly. "How am I a goofball? You don't even know how to get mad. If that's not being a goofball, what is?" "You're the easiest person in the world to bully," Lucas said softly, holding her close and inhaling the clean scent of her hair. A smart girlfriend would be throwing a fit right now, demanding a bigger, better birthday celebration to make up for it. "That's what someone who isn't smart would do," Lily said seriously. "It's not like you're intentionally skipping my birthday. You have to go for work. Why would I get angry and make us both miserable? I already don't want you to go. Making you leave while you're feeling bad would just make it harder for me." Lucas suddenly felt grateful that he wasn't some terrible person or a master of manipulation. Everything he told her was just his side of the story, and this silly girl believed him without a second thought, too sweet to even be mad. "You're right," was all he could manage to say. It was strange. He couldn't see a single trace of sadness on her face. "Do you need to pack some clothes?" she asked. "Of course. It's even hotter there than in Seattle. If I don't, I'll stink by the time I get back." Feeling like she'd asked a dumb question, Lily turned and walked toward the balcony. "You should take the clothes I washed for you yesterday. They just finished drying." Although Lily only napped here in the afternoons, she kept a few changes of clothes at his place for convenience. When she did her laundry, she'd wash his clothes too, except for his underwear, of course. But Lucas suspected that washing her own clothes was the afterthought, because she only had a few items, while his laundry always seemed to take up the entire balcony. Watching her carefully fold his clothes and pack them into his bag, Lucas couldn't resist a teasing smile. "You're like a little newlywed wife." Lily's hands paused for a second before she resumed packing. She was clearly used to his flirty remarks. You can get the other clothes yourself," she mumbled a moment later, her voice barely audible. Lucas, who had been enjoying the show, walked smugly toward the bedroom. Before he went in, he glanced back at her. "Newlywed wives are always so shy. What's there to be embarrassed about? I've seen your underwear before." The comment brought back an unpleasant memory for Lily, and she blushed furiously. "If you keep talking nonsense, I won't pack for you next time." She felt like he took pleasure in teasing her. It was so mean, especially when she was already feeling sad about him leaving. I'm sorry," Lucas said perfunctorily, grabbing a few pairs of underwear and stuffing them into his bag. It was so much easier for guys. Girls had to coordinate everything, even their lingerie. It reminded him of something he'd heard once. If a girl's lingerie doesn't match, you got lucky. If it matches, she got lucky. He'd have to verify that theory with Lily someday. It wasn't him being a pervert. It was for the sake of scientific inquiry. "Do you need to bring a power bank?" Lily called from the living room. "You can't bring them on planes." "Huh?" Lily was surprised. She'd never heard that before. "You're always saying, huh?" "So silly," Lucas chuckled. This goofball was rubbing off on him. He'd started making the same unintelligent-sounding noise when he was surprised. Thanks to his light-hearted teasing, Lily wasn't as worried as before. She had been afraid that he was running into serious trouble. A few minutes later, Lucas tossed his bag onto the sofa and sat down next to her. "When do you leave?" "Flight's at 1. No rush." As he spoke, he turned to look at her. Lily instinctively sensed danger and scooted away. "Why are you looking at me like that?" "Will you miss me while I'm gone?" he asked softly. "Of course I will," she answered without hesitation. "I'm already missing you right now." "You're definitely going to want to kiss me," Lucas stated shamelessly. "And since I'm a kind person, I've decided to grant you that wish in advance." Before Lily could process his bizarre logic, he had already pushed her down onto the sofa. They kissed deeply for a while before he finally pulled away. Lucas sat up, satisfied, and glanced at the time. Noticing Lily was still lying on the sofa, he tapped her leg. "Why are you still lying down?" Lily draped an arm over her forehead, her lips slightly parted. "I'm so tired," she said weakly. "Anyone who didn't know better would think I did something to you," Lucas said, exasperated. This girl got tired from a single kiss. How was she going to survive later in life? He threw the candy wrapper from earlier into the trash, moved closer, and pulled her into his arms. "If I'm not back on your birthday, I'll celebrate it with you again, just the two of us." His tone was incredibly serious, each word pronounced with care. "But don't worry, your present will definitely get to you that day." Lily shook her head earnestly. "You don't have to. Ever since I've been with you, every day feels happier than my birthday." She nuzzled the back of her head against his chest. "And you being my boyfriend is already the best gift you could have ever given me." Lucas's throat tightened. He didn't say anything, just tilted his head back slightly. Once he'd composed himself, he squeezed her shoulder. "Give me back the candy." Lily turned and shot him a mock-ferocious glare, but it melted away under his colder stare. She immediately caved, pouting as she passed the candy from her mouth to his. "Such a good girl. You get a kiss as a reward." Whether he was trying to distract himself or not, Lucas was being particularly shameless today. Lily nudged him lightly with her arm. "You're a pervert." "Yep, that's me." "Lily, you were so upset about it yesterday during our nap. Why are you so proud of it now?" She had never been so speechless in her life. When Lucas was serious, he was incredibly handsome. When he wasn't, he was an absolute rogue. "Because I realize being a pervert is pretty great, especially when it comes to you," he said earnestly. Just as he finished, his phone buzzed. "Jason, got the stuff you needed from the office. Come down whenever you're done being mushy with your girlfriend." "Damn it, there's no parking. I'm just leaving the car on the side of the road. If I get a ticket, you're paying for it." Lucas sighed and slowly stood up. "I'm leaving." Lily stood up with him and gently took his hand. "Leave a hickey before you go," she whispered, her voice as faint as a mosquito's buzz. "Oh, Oh yeah, Lucas thought. You don't say. He was pleasantly surprised when she tilted her head back, exposing her pale neck. I thought you were going to give me one. That's fine too, the girl murmured, tapping a finger on the spot just below her collarbone. I just think, this way I won't miss you as much. A moment later, Lucas admired his handiwork and squeezed her hand. I'll try to be back before it fades. A happy feeling bloomed in Lily's chest. Okay, you be good and keep drawing. When you're a famous artist someday, I'll be at your book signing, holding a banner for you. Okay, I'll give him the day off on your birthday, so she and Aaron can celebrate with you. Lily gave a barely perceptible nod, then asked tentatively, Can I come with you to the airport? It was a 40-minute drive. She wanted to spend a little more time with him. Better not. It'll take you forever to get back and forth, and I know you won't want to take a taxi back. You'll just waste more time. Okay. Lily didn't argue. She also didn't say come back soon. She was afraid he'd think she was rushing him. I'm gone, Lucas said, shutting the door as if he were escaping, cutting off her quiet okay. He was afraid if he stayed any longer, he'd snap and yell, to hell with the company. Let someone else run it. I'm staying here to celebrate my girlfriend's birthday, and that would be a problem. It's just a few days. It's fine. He said he'd be back soon. I survived being alone for so long before. Lily repeated the comforting phrases to herself, resisting the urge to run out and watch him leave. She just leaned against the door. The sound of it closing echoed in her mind, and the sudden silence made her feel as if her heart had sunk to the bottom of a lake. It was inexplicably suffocating. The apartment wasn't large, and it was a bit cluttered, but now it felt vast and empty, as if a piece of her heart had been carved out. As if by some telepathic connection, Lucas hadn't left immediately. He stood with his back against the door, his mind in turmoil. The farewell inside felt like just a prelude. They hadn't truly parted yet. He wouldn't have cared if it were just a business trip, but Lily had so rarely celebrated her birthdays, and now he was going to miss this one. The memory of her pretending not to care was like a needle in his heart. 2 minutes later, he was in the passenger seat. As long as our company is still standing, I'll make sure that other studio never earns another comfortable cent. That was the first thing he said to Jason. The car sped along the highway to the airport. Traffic was light. Jason stuck a cigarette in his mouth, one hand on the wheel, the other patting his pockets, unable to find his lighter. Shit, those assholes in the programming department. Why do they always steal my lighters? He cursed. Lucas, who had been gazing at the blue sky, turned to him with a smirk. What's up? We're on our way to solve the problem. Why are you still in a bad mood? We had a fight. Vanessa suggested I go on an overseas business trip and not come back. Suddenly, Lucas felt even worse about what he was doing to Lily. Is everything okay with you? Jason asked, glancing over. It's fine. If you had just spent some time with Vanessa earlier, she wouldn't be mad at you, Lucas said, exasperated. She has a temper, but she's a reasonable person. You know that better than I do. Jason ground his teeth. He relaxed his fist and leaned toward Lucas. Bro, no, Dad. Teach me your ways. I'll kneel and listen. Get lost. What do you think of the chances of this deal going through? Jason asked, his eyes on the license plate of the car in front of them. Hey, an SB license plate. Interesting. Gotta take a picture of that. Thinking about that is pointless, Lucas said, leaning back and closing his eyes. If you want the deal to happen, it will. The question is, what price are you willing to pay? Seattle wasn't too far from San Jose. The plane took off at 1 and landed at 3:10. By 4 o'clock, they were walking into the Titan Gaming building. Following a receptionist, their footsteps echoed crisply on the polished, warm yellow tiles of the spacious lobby. Lucas grabbed Jason's arm and stomped his foot lightly. This floor tile? Probably paid for with the money I spent on their games, he whispered. Then this one was paid for by me, Jason replied, childishly stepping onto an adjacent tile. He'd spent a fortune. Back in college, his nearly complete collection of skins would always draw a crowd whenever they went to an arcade. This building is amazing, Lucas said, nodding toward the entrance. That fountain outside is nice too. Just looking at it makes you feel good. It'd be great if our company could be like this someday, Jason said, his focus on the sheer scale of the operation. Dream on. The gold rush days are over. You can't get to this level just by running a good business. You need an opportunity, and you have to be able to seize it. They had only been in the meeting room for a couple of minutes when a man they were scheduled to meet knocked and entered. That was fast. Lucas smiled and shook his hand, mentally reevaluating how important this project was to Titan. Negotiations like this were all about psychology, like haggling with a souvenir vendor at a tourist trap. You know the $61 price tag is inflated, higher than the $31 you're willing to pay. You also know the vendor has a bottom line. So you don't just want to get the price down to 31. You want to get as close to their bottom line as possible. The vendor, on the other hand, wants to get as close to your maximum price as possible. During the haggling, you both throw out fake bottom lines until one of you threatens to walk away, claiming that a failed deal is a lose-lose situation. You say, $20 or nothing, and turn to leave, even though you might secretly think 31 was acceptable. The vendor might hesitate, thinking 20 is better than nothing, and consider calling you back. In that moment, both sides are tempted to compromise, but hope the other side will be the first to do so. It was the most basic form of game theory. Mr. Carter, Mr. Miller, it's an honor. I've heard great things about you young talents, the slightly portly man said, handing them his business cards. My name is Lee One. I've been in charge of the company's external partnerships since the beginning of the year. A pleasure, Lucas replied with a smile. He was a little thankful that he and Tower of Slaughter still had some buzz around them. Otherwise, he doubted he'd be meeting with someone this high up. The first team Titan had sent to scout them were just regular employees with some standing. After that, Lucas and Jason were given a polite tour, posed for a few photos, and then got down to business. The conversation in the meeting room was quiet and civil, but Jason's face was already etched with impatience. He felt like Lucas and this Lewin guy were just talking in circles, only occasionally touching on anything substantial. You could collaborate with one of our in-house studios. We could merge our strengths. It would be a win-win for everyone, Lewin suggested with what seemed like utmost sincerity. Most of our employees are still in the experience-building phase. Their capacity and desire for collaboration are limited, Lucas replied with a faint smile. Lewin chuckled, wagging a finger. There's no need to be so modest, young man. Building experience and creating a blockbuster hit like yours? If other developers heard you say that, they'd have to close up shop. Lucas's smile faded slightly. He had found the opening he was looking for. Exactly, he said, his gaze fixed on the man before him, which means we have the ability to do it well independently. We're just interested in the technology. The man paused, glanced at his watch, then stood up and clapped them both on the shoulder. You must be tired from your journey. I've booked a hotel. Let's go have dinner, and then you two can get some rest. We can continue this tomorrow. Sound good? Despite the friendly exchange, Lucas had a preliminary assessment of the situation. Today's talks had not gone well. A pleasant demeanor meant nothing. You couldn't judge a negotiation by the other party's attitude. If you did, you wouldn't even know how you were being bled dry. What mattered were the terms they offered, and it was clear they were still hoping to swallow Alcade whole, or at the very least, pump in enough people and money to seize control. But that was also a good thing. It was better for them to be greedy than to be uninterested. It made their bottom line clear. They would use technical support as leverage to force him to accept their investment. Giving up a small portion of his shares was fine. He'd be happy to have Titan on board. But giving up control was out of the question. He didn't mind more people splitting the profits. There would always be more to be made. But he and Jason had to have the final say. That night, Jason barged into Lucas's room, listening like an idiot as Lucas broke down the finer points of the negotiation. Jason had a natural talent for business and was learning fast, but he couldn't keep up mainly because his heart wasn't as black as Lucas's or Lee Win's. Damn, I know my family's got money, but I've never stayed in a hotel this nice. You want to go for a swim? They have a pool. And a sauna, Jason said. When Lucas didn't respond, he flopped onto the bed. I went to buy cigarettes earlier, and the lady at the store called me handsome. Lucas was clearly not interested. When you're done, get out, he said flatly. Why are you kicking your old man out? I was your wingman with Lily. I played a huge part in that. Is this how you treat a hero? I'm about to FaceTime my girlfriend. After kicking the nuisance out, the world was finally quiet. Lucas stood before the massive floor-to-ceiling window and looked out. Even though it was 10 o'clock at night, the city was a blaze of light. Skyscrapers glowed in a kaleidoscope of colors, and the endless stream of cars below looked like a swarm of luminous ants. When he let his eyes go out of focus, all that remained were blurs of color, floating like fireflies. It was dazzling, prosperous, and bustling, but all he felt was lonely. After a moment, he picked up his phone and started a video call with Lily, marveling at the power of technology. The call connected in 2 seconds. What are you doing? He asked. The girl on the screen looked like she'd just been pulled out of a river. It made him frown and laugh at the same time. He suspected she'd heard the phone ring and jumped out of the shower mid-wash. Her hair was still dripping, and a few drops of water trickled down her delicate cheek to her neck. Her pajamas were clinging to her, and the buttons weren't done up properly, revealing the slightest hint of an alluring curve. She didn't seem to have noticed any of this. She was just staring intently at the phone. This goofball was usually so shy. While his mind was still a jumble of thoughts, the girl on the screen met his gaze and said softly, thinking of you. Lucas didn't bother with appearances. He was lounging on the bed, while Lily sat up straight, facing the camera with perfect posture. Oh really? He didn't even try to play it cool this time. A faint smile broke through his tired expression. MHM. Lily hummed softly. Noticing his gaze had drifted, she discreetly pulled the collar of her pajamas higher. Aaron said girls should learn how to tempt their boyfriends, but Lucas doesn't need any tempting. I'm too busy fending him off, as it is. Trying to tempt him would be like walking into a tiger's den. Even a gentleman has to be guarded against. Lucas teased. You're not a gentleman, you're a rogue, she chided gently, then changed the subject. Are things going smoothly over there? She felt a pang of longing. Just that morning, she had been curled up in his arms, and now they were so far apart. They're okay. You're just saying that to make me feel better. How am I lying to you? When you're in a bad mood, you always avert your eyes, or you just stare at one spot without moving, lost in thought, Lily said with conviction. She was certain of this deduction. Details like that never escaped her notice. She paid close attention to every little shift in his tone. Lucas was both sheepish and stunned. Damn, I didn't even know that about myself. How can this silly girl be so observant when it comes to me? It was like that time he casually mentioned not having an umbrella, and she'd waited for him in the rain for what felt like forever. My dear girlfriend, you can't do that, he said with a straight face after a moment of thought. Why not? Lily asked, puzzled. Because a goofball can't suddenly become smart. It's against the natural order of things. I'm not a goofball. Lily wanted to reach through the screen and knock him one. He always managed to rile her up right when she was missing him the most, completely ruining the mood. She'd been feeling a little sad, and now the atmosphere was gone. Though if I could really go through the screen, I'd probably just hug him. I miss him so much. Even though they had only been apart for a short time, the distance made her feel lonely. They chatted back and forth, savoring the feeling of longing. Jason would have been furious to know that all the interesting things he'd bragged about were now being used by this jerk to entertain his girlfriend. His efforts have been wasted. This hotel is pretty fancy. I'm on the 30-something floor, and they have a swimming pool and a sauna. A hotel can fit a swimming pool inside it? Lily asked, a question perfectly in character. Her imagination in these matters was quite limited. It seems I'll have to take you out to see the world, Ms. Thompson. No, that sounds expensive. As she spoke, she yawned. She had been so excited about taking him to the amusement park last night that she'd barely slept. And now that chance was gone for the time being. You should get some sleep, Lucas reminded her. I still have to finish my shower after this. Then I'll go to bed. Lucas gave her a wicked grin. You know, I wouldn't mind if you showered while we're on a call. Lily tried her best to look fierce. If you say one more thing like that, you'll be in big trouble. But she didn't realize that instead of being intimidating, she just looked even more adorable. Someone as gentle as her could never pull off a menacing look. Who would be scared of a little white rabbit, especially one that was trembling in a corner while trying to sound threatening? It only made her more appealing. Will you come to my dreams? She asked softly at the end of the call. If that would make you happy, Lucas said, turning off the master light switch by the bed. Sleep well. Good night. The beep of the disconnected call had long since faded, but Lily was still staring at her phone screen, frozen in the late-night silence. She didn't move until she heard the sound of unsteady footsteps behind her. Her mother, Sophia, must be getting up to use the bathroom. She immediately stood up and went to her mother's side. Let me help you, she said gently, offering her arm. I can walk by myself. Sophia hadn't let Lily help her in a long time. Thanks to her stubbornness, her recovery was going well. She hadn't accepted help back when it felt like she was walking on broken glass, and she certainly didn't need it now. Lily bit her lip, but didn't press the issue. She knew it would be pointless. Were you on the phone with Lucas just now? Sophia asked, leaning on her cane as she walked slowly. You two rarely call this late. Is everything all right? He's on a business trip. He's busy. Lucas, he's really good to you, Sophia said out of the blue. He had talked to her before. She knew he hadn't originally planned on this path. He had started his own company to make Lily happy, to give her a better life. A boy so capable, gentle, and devoted. She thought it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say he was sent by heaven to save her poor daughter. Otherwise, she couldn't imagine what kind of life Lily would be living now. It was a thought she no longer dared to entertain. Lily, of course, didn't understand why her mother was suddenly saying this, but she nodded. He's the best. Honey, that. Sophia suddenly turned back. What is it? Lily looked at her, confused. Nothing. Seeing the complicated expression on her mother's face, Lily tilted her head, feeling even more curious. A few days later, on Lily's birthday, sitting alone in the apartment, trying to draw left Lily with a hollow feeling. so after a quick tidy-up, she went to the office early. She sat next to Aaron, who was drawing at her workstation, and tried to study. Around noon, Lily snapped her book shut and sighed deeply. She had been staring at it for 2 hours and had only managed to memorize 2 pages of key points. She should have been able to finish the whole section. She ran a hand through her hair, feeling restless, like something was scratching at her heart, making it impossible to focus. "Stop grinding and come play with me," Aaron said, noticing her best friend's low spirits. "If you can't focus on your book, just draw. Your grades are already the best in our major. It's break, and you're still studying? Are you trying to make everyone else look bad?" She thought both of them were a little nuts, each one more driven than the last. She tapped her digital tablet. "I feel like I don't even need a boyfriend. I could just draw myself one." "Fictional characters aren't as good as a real boyfriend," Lily mumbled. "Lucas is way better than a fictional character." The silly girl didn't realize what a normie thing she just said. Before she could finish, Aaron cut her off. "Stop, you traitor, abandoning us for the real world." Aaron pouted, resting her chin in her hands as she stared at her computer screen. "If only fictional characters could come to life. But then I'd have a new problem. I'd have to choose between Lelouch and Takumi Yuzui. It's so hard." "You sure have big dreams." Emma, who was playing on her phone nearby, couldn't help but snort. It was like that dumb couple who fantasized about winning the lottery and then got into a fight over how to spend the imaginary money. Tonight was Lily's birthday, so she was hanging out at the office, getting a taste of what it was like to be the boss's sister. Aaron made a throat-slitting gesture at Emma, a clear warning to shut up. Emma was unfazed and stuck her tongue out. The unstoppable force of the office, Aaron, had met her match. They were both top-tier introverts. Neither could get the upper hand on the other. Aaron shot back an international sign of friendship and turned back to watch Lily draw. Her eyes widened, and her jaw nearly hit the floor. Lily was scratching at her drawing tablet with a regular ballpoint pen, muttering to herself that it seemed to be broken. "Lily, are you trying to draw with that?" Aaron pointed at the pen, her brow furrowed. "I brought the wrong one," Lily mumbled, embarrassed. "I was wondering why it wasn't working." Aaron pressed a hand to her forehead and took a deep breath. "Lily, what kind of potion did Lucas give you?" This girl was clearly broken. To put it bluntly, she'd been molded into Lucas's shape. She was a helpless fool who couldn't function without him. Aaron's inner expert on romance novels was firing on all cylinders. "No, I haven't," Lily said defensively, rummaging through her bag. She still couldn't find her stylus. She really had grabbed the wrong thing. "Is Lucas not coming back today?" Aaron asked quietly. She wasn't sure what the situation was. "He said if things go well, they can finalize everything tomorrow," Lily replied, putting the pen back in her bag. She had subconsciously rephrased what he told her. Just as Aaron was about to offer some words of comfort, Emma's voice rang out again. "Leo, did you finish rendering those files for me? I don't have time for daily quests with my classes now, so I'm leaving it to you from now on." "Okay. Chloe, I want some bubble tea. The kind with hand-peeled grapes, right? I'll go get it for you." With Lucas gone, Emma had become the empress of the office. Aaron couldn't stand it anymore. "Emma, you'd better watch out, or your brother's going to kill you when he gets back." "Chloe, give me one too, love you." "My sister-in-law will protect me," Emma said nonchalantly. Besides, today she was a special envoy, personally approved by Lucas against their mother's wishes. Her budget was unlimited, and her mission was singular: make her sister-in-law happy. Seeing Lily's distracted state, she sighed. This mission was definitely a failure. She might as well enjoy herself before her brother came back to punish her. She felt like reciting a line of poetry about the mysteries of love. Lily found that she couldn't focus on drawing either, so she picked up her book again. Her eyes weren't on the pages, but on the buildings outside the window. The occasional bird flying by was enough to distract her. She just couldn't concentrate. She thought she could handle it. After all, she was used to this kind of loneliness, more than used to it. But every day Lucas was gone felt like an eternity. Their chat history ended with his message about going into a meeting. She hadn't sent anything else, afraid of disturbing him. But even without a red notification dot, she found herself opening the chat, looking at it, and then closing it again. Over and over. Evening descended, and the sky began to darken. The skyscrapers of Seattle lit up in a dazzling display of neon lights. 3 girls in long dresses walked along a street near the university, drawing countless gazes. Onlookers couldn't help but marvel at the quality of this year's college students. But next to the girl in the middle, the other 2 pretty, cheerful girls were mere foils. It was a shame that the most beautiful one didn't seem to be in high spirits. As the old saying went, 1,000 pieces of gold couldn't buy a smile from a concubine. A girl that beautiful would surely be even more stunning if she smiled. Lily, don't you dare say something like maybe we shouldn't celebrate, or let's just go to my place. This is the first time I'm celebrating your birthday with you since we met, Erin said, hoisting the cake box in her hand. She was wearing sandals, and they made a clack-clack sound on the pavement. Seeing that her hesitant thoughts had been read, Lily was too embarrassed to say anything and just mumbled a quiet, "Oh." Erin linked her arm with Lily's and looked at Emma. "Emma, what do you want to eat? Shouldn't you ask my sister-in-law? Does your sister-in-law look like she can make a decision right now?" Erin said with a wry smile. Lily pressed her lips together, too shy to speak. Emma had a sudden idea. "Let's go to Texas Roadhouse. We can have them sing the birthday song for my sister-in-law." "I think you're trying to kill your sister-in-law." After much debate, the three of them actually ended up at Texas Roadhouse. But since Lily absolutely refused, Emma became the official birthday girl. Emma was more than happy to play the part. It was basically like having a second birthday, and she got a small gift out of it. An absolute win. 10 minutes later, as several staff members gathered around to sing happy birthday to Emma, Lily felt the stares of the surrounding tables and wanted to die. She buried her head in her hands. Emma, on the other hand, was beaming, and Erin was recording the whole thing, pulling Lily into the frame. Between the two of them, she had no time to feel down. "Sis, it's your birthday. You're not allowed to serve us any more food," Emma said mid-chew. Even with her thick skin, she couldn't just sit there and be waited on by Lily. As amazing as it was to be meticulously cared for, it was her birthday, after all. Not right, not right. The thought made her a little jealous of her brother. The realization that this was what he got to enjoy every day made her grind her teeth. Just as Emma was about to say more, she saw a message on her phone and stood up. "Sis, you need to go outside. Now." Lily was startled and nearly knocked over her dipping sauce. She quickly wiped the table with a napkin. "What's wrong?" "My brother's birthday present has arrived." Lily's brain short-circuited for a moment, and she just blinked. Erin couldn't help but ask, "What kind of present did your brother send that's only arriving now?" "A Lamborghini." "I don't know. My mission today was just to bring my sister-in-law to the waterfront at this exact time. Leo's in charge of the rest." Emma shrugged. That Leo guy was her brother's most loyal subordinate. No matter how much she threatened him, he wouldn't crack. Confused, Lily walked toward the waterfront. The October night was getting chilly, and a cool breeze swept past, lifting the girl's soft hair and the hem of her dress, adding a touch of elegance to her gentle demeanor. Her heart was beating fast. It was a gift from Lucas. It was impossible not to be excited. As she walked along the river, she suddenly heard a high-pitched whirring, like the buzzing of a swarm of bees. Turning her head, she saw countless drones rising into the sky in neat, layered formations before flying out over the water. Before she could process what was happening, lights of different colors lit up in the sky. Then, stroke by stroke, the three words Lily Thompson materialized in the air. Perhaps considering his girlfriend's introversion, the name only stayed lit for a few seconds before it was replaced by Happy Birthday, which appeared all at once. This time, Lily was truly stunned. She couldn't have even dreamed of something like this, because she had never seen or heard of it before. The words in the sky started to blur, and she quickly wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. The message held for a moment, and just when Lily thought it was over, the image of a little girl appeared in the sky. As time passed, the little girl, who seemed to have stepped out of a simple sketch, grew taller, until she was shown taking shelter from the rain, as if waiting for someone. Lily was too mesmerized to notice how fake the flashing blue lights of the rain looked. The final image was of a ring, slowly being slipped onto the middle finger of a hand. The girl recognized it immediately. It was the paper ring Lucas had put on her finger when he confessed to him. "Thank you for celebrating my girlfriend's 19th birthday with us." Lily sniffled and smiled. The words had her boyfriend written all over them. Only he would be so proud and showy. She never thought that even when he wasn't here, he could plan something so romantic for her birthday. "Do we still even need to give her our gifts?" Emma said, dejected. Not only had she spent a long time picking out that dress, but it had also cost all her allowance. Erin refused to be beaten. "What do you know? This is a case of a goose feather sent from 1,000 miles away, a small gift conveying deep affection. Feelings can't be measured by money. Just because he spent a lot doesn't mean we lost to him, understand?" "But I'm jealous," Emma said, stopping in her tracks and looking up at the dazzling drones. "If someone did something like this for me, I'd marry him without a second thought." "Actually, me, too." "Did you like it?" The sound of a car, doors slamming shut, came through the phone, followed by Lucas's breathless voice. "I loved it," Lily replied instantly. She felt like the happiest girl in the world. "If you loved it, why are you crying?" I'm crying because I love it, the girl said, wiping away her tears. I was afraid you were crying because of how much it cost. That might be part of it too, Lily admitted sheepishly. That thought was just now dawning on her. Hearing her rare joke, Lucas let out a dry laugh, his ragged breaths creating a whooshing sound against the phone's microphone. You really don't have to go to such lengths. I'd never be mad at you for missing my birthday, Lily said, leaning against the railing by the river, her voice mingling with the cold wind in a way that sounded like playful banter. The sound of hurried footsteps on the other end of the line finally stopped. Lucas, panting heavily, sounded completely exhausted. I'm not missing it. Not once. Turn around. The girl whipped around. There, standing in the darkness, was the person she had been missing the most, panting for breath. The distant lights illuminated his handsome face, and even though a layer of mist quickly blurred her vision, he was clearer than he had been in any of her dreams over the past few days. I was supposed to bring you here myself, Lucas said, his voice a little hoarse. But the traffic from the airport was insane. He struggled to get the words out. When he was still a kilometer away and completely stuck, he'd just gotten out of the car and run the rest of the way. He had just about caught his breath and was about to walk over when the girl rushed into the wind and threw herself into his arms. They both forgot to hang up their phones. Your birthday isn't over yet. You should be happy today. No crying, Lucas said, gently patting the girl in his arms, letting her hold him as tightly as she wanted. He knew his girlfriend was a crybaby at heart, which was why he gave the gentle reminder. I can't help it. I used to be able to hold it in, Lily said, her voice thick with tears, soft and sweet. But now I just... The past is the past, Lucas murmured. Lily used to neither cry nor smile. Now she smiled, but she had also become a world-class crier, as if letting out all the tears she'd held back when she had no one to cry to. And that's a good thing, isn't it? She's adorable no matter what. I can't be the kind of girlfriend who doesn't cause you any trouble. I don't want to be that kind of girlfriend anymore. Lily cried as she spoke, as if she'd been deeply wronged, or as if she'd made a terrible mistake. I missed you so much every day. I really, really missed you. For the past few days, the thought that she couldn't disturb him had been torturing her. She knew he was busy with something important, so she didn't dare rush him or ask when he was coming back. All she could do was go about her day and wait patiently for him to message her first. But being a sensible, obedient girlfriend was so hard. Forcing herself not to bother him when he was all she could think about was pure agony. I don't want you to leave. I want to see you every day. I'm sorry. I'm not a good girlfriend, Lily whispered, her forehead resting against his chest, her voice growing quieter until it was just a breath. That's exactly right, Lucas said seriously. His words made her freeze. She looked up at him, shocked, her eyes red-rimmed and glistening with tears. Lucas reached out and gently wiped the teardrops from her cheeks, a soft smile on his face. A good girlfriend has to sacrifice a lot for me. She can't get angry, can't throw tantrums, can't be willful. So most of the time, she wouldn't be happy. He leaned down and placed a gentle kiss on her forehead. I want you to be the girlfriend who's happy every single day. You always do this, Lily mumbled. Right now, I'd follow you if you asked me to jump into the river, so why do you have to keep pulling at my heartstrings like this? Her heart was pounding. Her head felt dizzy. She didn't understand. Just then, Lucas gently took her by the shoulders and moved her back a little, carefully examining the necklace around her neck. A blue diamond was suspended in a delicate, hollowed-out disc. With the slightest movement, it seemed to sparkle. Is this a present too? Lily held the exquisite necklace in her palm. She didn't dare guess the price. Not wanting to ruin the mood, she decided she would lecture him about buying expensive gifts later. Yep. Why 2 presents? From now on, I'll give you 2 presents every year, until I've made up for all the birthdays you missed before, Lucas said softly. This sweet girl probably hadn't received a birthday gift in years. He would make up for them, one by one. Lily pressed her lips together. Suddenly, one birthday held 2 things to look forward to. She was overjoyed. Of course, she'd be even happier if Lucas didn't spend so much money. Lucas took her hands, lacing their fingers together, and they stood in silence, just looking at each other. Lily had blossomed into an even more stunning young woman, far more breathtaking than the first night he'd met her. I missed all of your birthdays before you turned 19. Of course, I wasn't going to miss the first one after I met you, and I won't miss any of the ones to come. Lily, happy birthday, he said gently. Thank you for letting me into your life, for letting me be a part of your 19th year. And thank you for liking me so much, for pulling me out of the pit of self-doubt. Lily didn't speak. She just wrapped her arms around his, gently rose onto her tiptoes, and looked at him with eyes full of love. There's one more present I want. You want. Before Lucas could finish, her soft lips were on his. Their words and tongues intertwined. It seemed as if nothing was said, yet all the words they wanted to say had already been carried away by the night wind, drifting further and further away. After a long while, the riverside wind felt a bit cold. Lucas and Lily huddled together, sharing his jacket. In the distance, the city skyline glittered with neon lights. Nearby, the surface of the water was as calm and quiet as the night itself, rippling occasionally in the breeze. Watching the shimmering water, Lily tilted her head and nuzzled his chin. "What is it?" Lucas asked. When she didn't answer, he asked again, "Why aren't you talking?" After a couple of seconds, the girl finally mumbled, "I want you to hold me." "Then why didn't you just hug me?" Lily turned her face away, too shy to look at him. A G-girl has to be modest. She was already regretting her earlier boldness. The colder the wind felt on her burning cheeks, the more she felt she had gone too far. A smile played on Lucas's lips. "Has anyone ever told you that you're incredibly cute?" "You have." "Then I'll say it again." Lucas moved to stand behind her, wrapping his arms around her slender waist and resting his chin on her shoulder. He placed a light kiss on her neck. The two figures stood pressed tightly together by the river. "You were able to come back early. Does that mean things went well?" Lily asked quietly. Even though she didn't understand the details, she had been worried. She didn't want to see him with that troubled look on his face again. "You could say the deal is done. I forced them to sign a contract today," Lucas explained calmly. "They're investing $10 million for 20% equity and providing technical support. The rest is 51 for me and 29 for Jason. With an outside investor, we can't keep splitting it 50-50. One of us needs to have a controlling stake, the final say. Honestly, given the company's current prospects, getting 20% for just $10 million was a steal, a ridiculously profitable deal for them." But in Lucas's eyes, as long as he maintained the company's independence, a partnership like this was no loss at all. The technical support part was a huge variable. He had plenty of ways to leverage that for more resources. The $10 million was just the price for the equity. He could always negotiate for more later, as long as he could demonstrate the company's potential. Besides, setting aside stereotypes, Titan Gaming had a reputation for being an investor that gave you money and left you alone. They only cared about one thing: profit. Gaining a powerful ally like that meant they were practically untouchable for now. Of course, all of that was based on one condition: you had to actually deliver profits. As long as there was money to be made, everyone was friends. Your company is getting bigger and bigger. Are you going to be very busy from now on? Lily truly felt like her boyfriend was on his way to becoming someone incredible. If she didn't know him, the Lucas of today would be completely out of her league. But that was just a hypothetical. She knew that no matter how high he climbed, he would still love her just the same. He had planted that seed of confidence in her heart with his actions, time and time again. It hadn't fully blossomed yet, but had broken through the soil. "I'll try my best not to be," Lucas responded seriously. "The moment I start losing focus, you can just lock me in the house." "I would never. If you're busy, I'll just run to see you." The wind kept blowing through the girl's soft hair, but she still looked so radiant. Under Lucas's gaze, she looked out at the river, her eyes calm, and spoke again. "You know, before I met you, I used to imagine that maybe we were looking at the same cloud. I never thought that now. What you see is what I see. Thank you for stumbling into my life that day." A small smile played on her lips. She took a deep breath and decided to say the words she had never had the courage to say to his face. "Lucas, I love you. So much." Jason didn't get back until 2 hours after Lucas, having stayed behind to handle all the follow-up matters. As soon as he walked out of the airport, he saw a familiar figure. The woman was standing perfectly still, dressed in a white V-neck blouse and a gray high-waisted skirt. She looked cool and efficient. It was Vanessa. They say your profession changes your personality, and it seemed to be true. She was dressing more and more in this minimalist style. "You're back," Vanessa said coolly, her gaze averting the moment she saw him. Jason clearly hadn't expected her to pick him up. A wide grin spread across his face. "I'm back." Vanessa made no move to help with his luggage, keeping her arms crossed. "I was starting to think you'd been scammed and sent to some forced labor camp. What a shame. What would you do if my kidneys got harvested?" "You're impossible," Vanessa said, rolling her eyes. "I'll drive." "Why?" Jason remembered she had just gotten her license at the beginning of the year. She was a textbook terrible driver. Luckily, she didn't like driving. "You just got off a plane and haven't rested. I don't have a death wish." Once they were in the car, Vanessa casually brought up the company. "Since Lucas makes most of the decisions, you should have let him take the larger share from the start. Business is business, and friendship is friendship. You have to keep them separate. If you let feelings influence business, eventually business will influence your feelings, she said, checking the rearview mirror as she turned the steering wheel. You're lucky the two of you get along so well that you're partners in crime. Otherwise, you would have had problems long ago. Jason didn't like that. What are you talking about? I won't let you talk about my brother like that. Fine, you're a lone criminal then. Happy? That's good too. At least you're not corrupting anyone else. They probably wouldn't want to get dirty with you anyway. Just go back to insulting Lucas. Stop insulting me, Jason grumbled. This woman's tongue was lethal. His comment made her laugh. Lucas really drew the short straw when he met you. I really have my dad to thank. If he hadn't forced me to change my major, I never would have met you guys, Jason said, thinking out loud. He often wondered what would have happened if his father had supported his dream, if he had gone to proper school for it, if he had started with more capital. Would he be further along now? The answer was obvious. No way. The reality was that Lucas had carried him. He should thank his lucky stars for having a brother like him. That was so long ago. Let go. You should go home and visit sometime, Vanessa advised gently, her tone softer now. Jason just nodded, clearly not wanting to discuss the topic. It wasn't that easy to let go. He was fighting tooth and nail to make a name for himself, not just because it was his dream, but to show his stubborn old man, to prove to him that he wasn't always right. I feel like I've gotten old right after graduating. I've been thinking a lot about when we all first met. Back then, Lucas would keep you as a third wheel, so I'd go hang out with you, he said with a laugh. Then he remembered something. By the way, how is she doing now? At first, Jason had been angry with Scarlett for what she'd done to Lucas. But with time, he had become completely indifferent, as if she were a stranger. Vanessa, of course, knew who she was. She's changed, she said calmly. She opened her phone and looked at the photos Scarlett had sent her recently. Pictures from various landmarks around the world, many of them with her mother. She was smiling a lot of them, her arm linked with her mother's, a captivating joy on her face. She had never smiled that much before. In other words, she was approaching everything in her life, except for romance, with a positive attitude. The girl had learned to cherish what she had. That chapter of her life had been a blow, but it had clearly taught her a lot. Do those things you buried deep in your heart still surface when you're tossing and turning at night? Do you curl up in bed and cry with regret? Or do you cry and laugh at the same time, feeling like the second happiest girl in the world? Vanessa wondered, sighing softly. She turned to look at the man beside her, who was yawning and looking utterly punchable. Can we be good to each other from now on? No more fighting, okay? Jason shuddered violently. Can you go back to being mean? This is scaring me. Are you sick? Vanessa shot him an exasperated look. The nice atmosphere was completely gone. Much better. When you're that nice to me, it feels like I have a terminal illness and don't have long to live, he muttered, relieved. The next day at noon, Lucas was back at the apartment, waiting for lunch. He was glued to his laptop, rushing to catch up on work and handle the handover. Lily sat quietly beside him, doing something unusual for her, watching anime. Nagisa. Hearing the voice from the show, Lucas couldn't help but smile. Tomoya's voice was so distinctive. This goofball was watching Clannad. A classic like that must have been recommended by an old-school anime fan like Aaron. He wondered if, halfway through, she would suddenly remark, "This main character is as clueless as I am." With her mother's steady recovery, Lily had more and more time for entertainment lately. It was a good sign. While Lucas was lost in thought, Lily had moved closer, pouting at him. "What's wrong?" he asked. "You've been hugging your laptop ever since you got back this afternoon." At that, Lucas tossed the laptop aside. "You want me to hang out with you? This work can wait." The girl shook her head and put the laptop back on his lap. "No, what I mean is, you've been hugging your laptop for so long. You should hug me too." Lily nudged the computer to one side of his lap and snuggled into the other, curling up in his arms. Like a cat, she closed her eyes, completely content. Lucas suspected this girl was made of pure cuteness. This was just too unfair. "Lily," he said softly, "you're going to kill me with cuteness." After a while, she must have gotten sleepy from being so comfortable. She turned her head slightly. "Can I sleep like this for a little bit?" "I wouldn't recommend it." "Why not?" Lucas looked pained. "My health bar is getting dangerously low." Hearing that, Lily could only say with a pout, "I'll go make lunch." "What are we having?" The girl opened the fridge and scanned its contents. Sautéed cabbage and scrambled eggs with tomato. While Lucas was away, she hadn't had the motivation to go grocery shopping. A single leftover dish would last her the whole day, so there wasn't much left in the fridge. But when Lucas was around, she had to make at least 2 dishes. Her boyfriend was a picky eater. "And there's leftover cake from yesterday," she added, her voice full of pleasant surprise. Lucas made a face. That stuff's no good after a night in the fridge. A slice of watermelon or a piece of cake that had spent a night in the refrigerator was, to him, worse than durian. It's not like it's gone bad, Lily muttered, popping a cherry into her mouth. A look of bliss spread across her face. It was still delicious, sweet and sour. She picked up another one that didn't have much cream on it and walked over to Lucas. Ah, she cooed, opening her own mouth slightly. Lucas wasn't a fan of fruit straight from the fridge, but since it was from his girlfriend, he obediently opened his mouth and ate it. See? Still delicious, right? Mostly because you're the one feeding it to me, he said, smacking his lips with a frown. The cream really did taste weird after a night. This stuff goes bad easily. If you like cake, we could just buy another one. It's not like we can't afford it now. He didn't have many needs himself. Otherwise, his spending would have skyrocketed. 2 years ago, he would have immediately built a top-of-the-line gaming PC. But now, even if he did, he knew he wouldn't have the time or energy for it. He'd rather spend the money on a few more dresses for this goofball. At least that was nice to look at. We have to save money, Lily said seriously. How much money can you save for one cake? Why, making a day could buy who knows how many cakes. I'm sick of it. After this, no more, Lily declared, retreating into the kitchen. We really do have to save money, she thought to herself as she chopped vegetables. Getting married, raising kids, all of that costs money. Seattle wasn't like her hometown. Kids here were like four-legged money-eating machines. Everything from birth cost a fortune, and she'd heard that a good kindergarten in Seattle could cost tens of thousands a year. She had never even been to kindergarten. Oh, right. She hadn't even earned enough for her own dowry yet. Suddenly, she felt immense pressure. Getting married was so hard. Her chopping slowed to a halt. She pressed her hands to her cheeks. Lily, what are you thinking? You just turned 19. 19. Lucas, sitting on the sofa with his eyes on the kitchen, sighed with a wry smile. He was starting to realize that no matter how much money he made, it wouldn't change this goofball's mindset. After lunch, Jason messaged Lucas, wanting to play a game of TFT. It was still early, so Lucas agreed. He hadn't touched Summoner's Rift since leaving campus, and didn't even bother with his ranked maintenance games anymore. It was either Aram or TFT. Lily sat next to him, studying, occasionally glancing up at the screen filled with things she didn't understand. She wasn't sure why she enjoyed watching, but she did. Maybe she just liked the feeling of it. With Lucas back, her studying efficiency had shot up. The restlessness was gone. She kept him company, and he kept her company. Everything was good. How are you in last place? Lily asked, looking up after seeing his character get beaten. Lucas cleared his throat, a little embarrassed. I'm intentionally losing health. It's a strategy. Oh, that sounds impressive. Lily nodded, understanding completely. She believed whatever he said. A few moments later, there was a soft knock on the door. Lily immediately removed Lucas's hand from her thigh and sat up straight. Lucas's blood pressure spiked. He stomped over and opened the door. It was a neighbor who had given Lily a bag of peaches. Lucas, are you free right now? Could you come help me move something? The older woman asked with an embarrassed smile. It's just me and my grandson at home, and neither of us can lift it. Lily peeked over the back of the sofa like a timid deer. She remembered the woman. She had been kind to her. Just head back home and wait for me. I'll be over in a minute. Lucas rarely refused these kinds of small favors. You never knew when you might need to ask for help yourself. He closed the door and stared at his computer screen, his heart aching. This was a crucial game. He squeezed Lily's cheek. You play for me. This is do or die. I don't know how. Lily stammered, terrified of the responsibility. It's easy. See the characters I have on the board? Just buy them when you see them. Lucas took her hand and placed it on the mouse. And this guy is Sheik and my wife, that's Jason. Whatever characters he has on his board, you buy them too. He was at 40 HP, and Jason was at 17. Teaching her the intricacies of the game was impossible. It was better to teach her how to screw Jason over and knock him out in 5th place, ensuring Lucas at least gained some points. After a few more quick instructions, Lucas muted the in-game chat from Jason and rushed downstairs. Lily placed the laptop on the coffee table and knelt before it, taking a deep breath. She was more nervous than she'd ever been for an exam. The moment she took over, she lost a round. The player named Ishiki, my wife, even moved his character over to give her a thumbs-down emote. Panicked, she remembered Lucas's instructions, repeated them to herself, and began to execute them with unwavering dedication. A few minutes later, Lucas returned. Parents these days are something else, he grumbled, washing his hands in the bathroom. Lily was still engrossed in her task. What happened? Her grandson hasn't even started kindergarten yet, and her daughter-in-law already bought him a huge punching bag. Lucas gestured with his hands. I'm telling you, That kid is going to be the king of the kindergarten playground. He imagined the kid making one of those muscle man videos with a caption, 5 years old, afraid of being bullied at school. He walked, still a little out of breath, over to the sofa. When he saw the screen, he nearly collapsed. Where did you get so many 3-star units? He counted. Damn, 4 3-star champions. Lily, thinking she'd done something wrong, said timidly, I don't know. They just showed up, so I bought them. Please don't tell me you're trading your life force for good luck in a video game. What do you mean? Your luck is just too good. They all lose to me, Lily said proudly, like a student who had finished her homework early and was waiting for praise. You're amazing, Lucas said, pecking her on the cheek. He sat behind her and continued to watch. It was down to a 1v1 between a player trying to hit a 3-star 5-cost unit and this goofball. Jason had indeed been knocked out in 5th, just missing the cutoff for gaining points, thanks to Lily denying him his units. Lucas saw the dozens of unread messages from him on his phone and didn't dare open them. A group of serious gamers stood no chance against someone using divine intervention. In her very first game, Lily had taken first place. Lucas took the laptop back and started dealing with work. Was the game fun? He asked gently, his eyes on the dense document. Lily nuzzled her head against his shoulder like a cat. I didn't understand any of it. Please have some respect for the players you eliminated, Lucas said, exasperated. This girl had thrown items on randomly, only had one active trait, and had still managed to win on pure luck. Who could you even complain to? The dealer was clearly biased, a total simp. After a long while, having arranged most of the work he needed to hand off, Lucas sighed deeply. He couldn't understand it. He was such a serious person. So how had he ended up like this? He wasn't a lecherous person by nature. Unable to figure it out, his hand on the girl's leg became a little more restless. Have you started using lotion recently? Lily didn't deny it. Does it feel nicer to touch? Yeah, it's smoother. The expert could tell with a single touch. Damn, what kind of angelic girlfriend is this? She takes care of her skin just so it feels better for me. Lucas let out a pervy chuckle and stroked her leg a couple more times. Lily ignored his lecherous behavior and pointed to the kitchen. I boiled some water for you. Drinking it will help with your stomach. I'll drink it later. Have to deal with some work stuff. The girl nodded and stood up, rubbing her tired eyes. I'm going to take a nap then. I was up late studying yesterday. Lucas stood up too. I'll sleep too. Didn't you just say you had work to do? Just finished. Lily marveled at how efficient he was. Well, you should drink some water first. I'll drink it when I wake up, Lucas said, walking straight toward her bedroom, leaving her standing there, stunned. Lily. When Lily returned to her room, Lucas was already tucked in bed, lying on his side and looking at her with an innocent, harmless expression. Has the AC repairman not come yet? The girl asked. It was just dawning on her that she would have to sleep with Lucas from now on. They're busy. He said he'll be here soon. Lily tilted her head. But it's almost past the season for using the AC. Are there still that many people who need repairs? I thought most people got theirs fixed at the beginning of summer. Is this goofball getting smarter? Lucas thought, though his expression remained perfectly composed. Those air conditioners work day and night all summer long. They're tired. Lily felt that whether she believed him or not was irrelevant. She timidly laid down on the edge of the bed. I don't feel that hot anymore. I'll just sleep in your room, she whispered after a moment. No, you're hot. After a couple of minutes, she glanced back and saw that Lucas was still lying there obediently, with no signs of making a move. She didn't say anything more, but she had a nagging suspicion that he was just playing the long game, aiming for bigger gains. That was his style, and the truth was, he was. Lucas fought the urge to move closer, closing his eyes and reciting the Tungwang Gu Su in his head to distract himself. Patience was key. He was a master of the slow boil, a strategist with a plan. He had just gotten to the line about the evening songs of fishermen when he felt something snuggle into his arms. He opened his eyes. Lily was lying on her side, hugging him, her face buried in his shoulder. What's wrong? He asked, caught off guard. Her voice was muffled. These past few days while you were gone, I couldn't sleep at all. Lucas raised an eyebrow. I was planning on being a gentleman for another week or two before trying to hug you, and you just give yourself up like this? This little frog was so considerate, jumping right into the pot on its own. You're not going to suddenly leave on a business trip while I'm sleeping, are you? Lily asked in a small voice, hugging him even tighter, as if afraid he would disappear. I won't, Lucas said, turning onto his side and gently patting her back. Go to sleep. All the mischievous thoughts in his mind suddenly vanished, replaced by a pang of tenderness. His left arm served as her pillow, and his right arm held her waist tightly. They fell asleep in each other's arms. Holding this soft, warm girl was a kind of bliss that made time itself seem to slow down. It was after 1 in the afternoon when Lucas woke up. He rubbed his arm, which was a little sore from being Lily's pillow, and slipped out of bed. He didn't usually sleep with a blanket in the summer. Lily must have covered him. The moment he walked into the living room, the atmosphere felt completely different from Lily's room. What's going on? Do all girls' rooms just smell nice? As he was pondering this, Lily, who was drawing, suddenly spoke up. Someone commissioned a profile picture from me. They want me to draw an anime version of them based on a photo, but they're not happy with any of the drafts I've done. They say it doesn't capture their handsomeness. Seriously? Lucas leaned over, intrigued. After seeing the photo the client had sent, he frowned. It's a miracle you managed to draw anything from this. Next time you get a request from an idiot like this, just block them. He changed the subject, which was putting him in a bad mood. So you're making money from your art now. 200 for profile picture. She held up 2 fingers and wiggled them. It was a price she had set after doing some market research. It was much lower than others. Since it was good practice anyway, why not earn a little money on the side? I'm just planning to do this for a little extra cash when I have free time. I'm not going to make a career out of it, she added seriously before he could offer any advice. Why not? Lucas held back his suggestion, curious to hear her reasoning. It feels like it's going to be replaced by AI, she said, pulling up 2 AI-generated images from a folder and comparing them to her own. It was a good thing she hadn't started out learning that particular style. Right now, you could still tell the difference between human and AI art, but who knew about the future? Noticing his strange expression, she shrank back a little. Why are you looking at me like that? You're being so smart, I almost don't recognize you. The moment he said it, Lily stood up. Don't headbutt me. I'm serious. Lucas went out to the balcony. There were only a few scattered clouds in the sky, floating high and lonely. The sun wasn't too intense, and a cool breeze drifted through the window. Summer was finally coming to an end. Let's go to the amusement park this afternoon, he suggested, turning back to her. He remembered she had suggested it right before he had to leave for his trip. This was the perfect time to make it up to her. Lily checked her phone, then slumped onto the table in disappointment. I have an entrepreneurship lecture this afternoon. Let's skip it. You can experience what it's like to cut class with your boyfriend, Lucas said with a mischievous grin, leaning against the balcony railing like a delinquent trying to corrupt a good girl. I don't dare, Lily mumbled. The thought of skipping class was something she had never even considered in her entire life. She didn't even take a day off when she had a fever. That class is a total formality. I've been through it, I know, he said with a shrug. He hadn't used a single thing he'd learned in that class when starting his company. Just think of it as getting practical experience with me. Who knows, they might even invite me to be a guest speaker later in the semester. But we be going on a date. Goody two-shoes have no friends, you know, Lucas said with a wry smile, walking over and taking her phone. The password was still his birthday, but her wallpaper was now a photo of him giving his speech at the university. 2 minutes later, he placed the phone back on the table. Leave has been approved. He felt a little guilty. Lily was such a diligent student that her advisor had been genuinely alarmed, thinking she must be seriously ill. The girl stared at him in astonishment, then looked down and bit her lip. She felt like she was heading down a dark path. Lying to her mom and staying out all night was one thing, but now she was skipping class to go on a date? What had happened to her? I'm being corrupted by you, Lily said, her voice a mix of guilt and fear. She couldn't believe her first thought had been that she wanted to skip class to be with him. It was like a little devil on her shoulder, tempting her to be reckless with Lucas. I'm becoming so playful now. Her tone made it sound like she had committed a grave sin. Lucas sighed and pulled her into his arms. You still have a wrong mindset, Miss Thompson. There's nothing pushing you along anymore. You have to get used to stopping and enjoying the view. The fact that Lily still woke up at the crack of dawn every day wasn't like a 19-year-old girl at all. She lived every day as if she were in a race, pushing herself relentlessly. But she had just turned 19. At this age, having fun should be the norm. Her past had changed her so much, almost stripping her of the ability to feel joy. It had made her forget how to smile, and even now, she hadn't learned how to truly live. To be more precise, it was as if Lily had just escaped from a prison called the past. She was looking at the world in a daze, unable to fit into the life a girl her age should be living. Her mental state was no different from that of an ex-convict. It was just that her prison had been years of hardship. It was as if the girl had just arrived in this world, without having lived a single day for herself. Lucas was determined to give her back all the small, beautiful things in life, piece by piece. He would give everything to the girl he loved most in the world. If possible, I truly hope you can find a goal you're willing to give your all for, instead of just being pushed along by the pressures of life, Lucas said, gently squeezing her delicate hand. He had already found his own goal, to support this sweet girl in everything she wanted to do. With all his life, with all his might. I have one, Lily said seriously. What is it? You. Lily took his hand, lowered her head, and placed a soft kiss on the back of it. A small moi sound. I'm willing to give more for you than you could ever imagine. Lucas just stared, then took a deep breath. You're not playing fair. His usually sharp mind stalled out, completely rebooting. The dozen things he'd planned to say vanished into thin air. Are you not happy? The girl asked in a small voice. I'm happy, but this feels wrong, Lucas said, still dazed. Lily pouted. You just think I'm dumber than you, and you're embarrassed that I'm the one making your heart race. If you keep talking like that, I'm going to lose control, he warned, his composure cracking. Oomph. I'm still going to say it. Lily was determined to keep him pinned down, to not let him flip the script. She refused to be the only one whose face flushed and heart pounded. Now that she finally had the upper hand, there was no way she was letting go. Besides, the way Lucas was trying to act so calm while his heart was clearly hammering away was just too cute. A shame he had no idea. The two of them fell into a silent, playful battle, like a couple locked in one of those childish games of who loves who more. Lily set down her stylus, took Lucas's hands, and guided them around her waist from behind, pulling him into a hug. She leaned back against his chest and closed her eyes, a look of pure contentment on her face. Lucas gently rubbed her stomach through her shirt. When she didn't resist, he was both thrilled and confused. Since when did you get so bold? What do you mean? Nothing. I'm just saying you're very considerate. Lucas was ecstatic. He'd been racking his brain for ways to get this close. And here she was, the frog hopping right into his mouth. How considerate. Of course, he couldn't rule out the possibility that this little dork was setting a trap for him. Whatever. He'd enjoy the moment first. While Lucas was having this internal debate, Lily leaned back further against him and took a soft sniff. You smell nice, she said with a faint, trusting smile. She would never, ever tell Lucas that for the past few days, while he was away, she had spent every afternoon napping in his room, hugging his pillow. It was the only way she could sleep. The lack of air conditioning didn't affect her rest, but the lack of Lucas did. She had long since become a fool who couldn't function without him, needing his scent to find peace. That's kind of creepy, you know. How is that creepy? You smell my hair all the time. Lily felt wronged. You even bury your face in my neck. And when you're done smelling, you start licking. Okay, that's enough. Lucas, his guilt showing, fell silent. He let her cling to him like a kitten. A dying man in sickness suddenly sits up. Oh my God, the pervert is me. It felt like in just a few days, this dork had gotten even clingier. Lucas. After a moment, she whispered his name. Yeah, I just realized something. I think I'd die without you, Lily said with a wide-eyed innocence that was almost comical. She had briefly imagined multiplying the past few days by 10, by 100. Yeah, she'd definitely die. Lucas was taken aback. After she explained, he couldn't help but flick her on the forehead. You big goofball. After a quiet moment, Lucas remembered something. He took the mouse from her hand and opened Steam. I've got pretty much every big-name game in my library. See if anything looks interesting. Erin begged me to let her use my account before, and I said no, he said softly. It was strange. How could she have a hardcore gamer like Erin for a best friend and know absolutely nothing about this world? Lily stared at the dazzling array of games on the screen, a little shocked. This isn't right. She mumbled. She felt like if this continued, she would be completely ruined. She didn't have time to play. She still had to work hard and earn money. Wait, she didn't need to earn money for her mom's treatment anymore. Before Lily could sort out her thoughts, Lucas squeezed her cheek. The strange thing is you. What's wrong with playing games? I didn't say there's anything wrong with playing games. I know. You think there's something wrong with you playing games, right? Lucas asked gently. Lily wanted to argue, but subconsciously, she knew that's exactly what she thought. Lucas let out a soft sigh. Your mom is going to be fine soon. You don't have to be the responsible one anymore. You can learn to be a bad kid, just like your boyfriend, and live for yourself. That would make your mom and stepdad happy. Lily lowered her head, pursing her lips. She was starting to understand the source of her own awkwardness. I'll try to change. You don't have to listen to me. I just want you to be happier, Lucas said, turning to look at the hyacinth on the balcony. A few drops of water still clung to its leaves, and it was growing straighter every day. He had changed, too. He had been trying so hard to change Lily, but wasn't she also subtly changing him? All of his confidence, every last bit of it, came from this silly girl who only had eyes for him. Seeing that Lucas was lost in thought, Lily took the mouse and scrolled through the screen a couple of times. She decided to give it a try, because Lucas loved games. The novelty of a new relationship would eventually fade, and she wanted to have as much in common with him as possible. If he was willing to explore her interests, she had to do the same for him. In the long run, it would only make them a better match. You still subconsciously connect entertainment with being bad, Lucas said, leaning down to rest his chin on her shoulder. The time when you had to carry everything on your own is over. You need to remind yourself that you have nothing to worry about now. You're just a girl who just turned 19. Honestly, even if you decide you hate working and don't want a job, I could support you without breaking a sweat. I don't want that, Lily said, shaking her head. I know you don't. I'm just making a point. You have the freedom to enjoy life. Lily, looking like a first grader being lectured, pouted and mumbled an okay. You have another problem. What is it? Lily was shocked. Did she really have that many problems? She'd never been considered a problem child in her life. You won't spend my money. When we first got together and your mom needed surgery, I understood why you didn't ask me for money. But why are you still refusing now? Lucas pointed to the DSLR camera on the coffee table. But you bought me a camera that cost over $1,000. That's different. How is it different? Lily bit her lip. You're so good to me, so you deserve that. But I'm still not good enough to you. She wasn't a qualified girlfriend yet. So, you don't think we're going to make it to the end? Lucas didn't get it, but he was used to her uniquely strange thought process. You couldn't analyze it with normal logic. I really want to. Lily's answer was immediate, without a hint of hesitation. Then what's the problem? Lucas couldn't resist poking her on the head. What's the difference if you spend it now or later? To be blunt, the money I make is for you and for my parents. Lily was getting dizzy from his verbal gymnastics and decided to just keep her mouth shut. It was a lesson learned from being tricked too many times. Lucas rarely took advantage of her directly. Instead, he'd coax her into signing a metaphorical contract, then do whatever he wanted with a clear conscience. The man loved finding justifications for his roguish behavior. Saying less was the safest route. Just then, Lucas casually patted her shoulder. Go wash some grapes for me. There should be some left from the ones I bought. Okay. The moment Lily walked into the kitchen, Lucas scrambled to hide several first-person shooters and all the folders containing those kinds of movies. Damn, that was a close call. My reputation was almost ruined. A little while later, Lucas pulled a chair over from the dining table and sat beside Lily, watching her play. He never would have guessed that she'd pick Plants vs. Zombies. The Steam version was in English, but that wasn't a problem for her. Is there no Chinese version? Lily asked, tilting her head. You don't really need it for this, right? I could play in English when I was a kid, around the same age I was when I first met you. The girl's eyes widened in admiration. You're so smart. A corner of Lucas's mouth lifted. He was, of course, exaggerating. Back then, the games were simpler, and he just figured out what each button did through trial and error. A lot of games didn't have translations, so you had to feel your way through, even with stuff like Counter-Strike. But there were exceptions. There was an old Sierra adventure game he could never get past the first screen on. He eventually moved on to Red Alert and StarCraft and never went back. Even though the zombies were designed to look as harmless as possible and the plants were adorable, Lily was still a nervous wreck, refusing to play unless she was holding his hand. Lucas suddenly realized that teaching this dork how to play games was way more fun than playing them himself, especially since Lily managed to turn even a casual game into a heart-pounding thriller. It was hilarious. Having fun, he asked softly after a moment, spitting a grape seed onto a napkin. Yeah. Lily was completely focused, planting sunflowers in the back row and refusing to sacrifice her walnuts as shields. It was a very girly playstyle. Lucas was satisfied. How could a masterpiece like this not captivate his little dork? Go on, Lily. Let yourself be corrupted by the greatest form of entertainment of the 21st century. In the future, when they had free time, he could take her traveling. There were so many things they could experience together. He reached out and gently stroked her soft hair, from the crown of her head all the way to the ends. There was still so much time. They played for nearly an hour, until 2 in the afternoon. Suddenly, a shout from Lucas echoed through the living room. Just put a plant down for the zombie to chew on. Stall for time. Your cherry bomb is almost ready. Lily bit her lower lip, then let go of the mouse, her voice firm with resolve. Let the zombies eat me. Don't let them eat my plants. Lucas's mouth fell open as he stared at her. Wow, play for another half hour, and then we'll go to the amusement park, he said, unable to hold back a laugh. Just as he finished speaking, his phone on the table rang. Lily dutifully muted the computer and watched him quietly. It was his mother, Emily Carter. Hey, Mom, are you busy with the company this afternoon? The company? No, it's all good. Lucas waved for Lily to keep playing. He wasn't done watching her yet and didn't think much of the question. Then why don't you come home for a bit? Lucas nearly dropped his phone. Actually, I do have something at the company. I just remembered. I have a meeting. Well, you figured out. A single decree from the Empress Dowager was enough to summon Lucas back from the frontier. He was starting to think that going to the amusement park was becoming a jinx. The first time he'd suggested it, it was the anniversary of Lily's father's death, and she had to go home. The next time she brought it up, he'd had to leave on a last-minute business trip. Now, they both finally had time, and his mom was calling him for God knows what. So weird. As soon as Lucas and Lily stepped through the door, he saw a little girl, who looked to be in early elementary school, sitting next to Emily. The girl looked quiet and subdued, with a small ponytail, saying nothing. Lucas didn't recognize her at all. He pointed. Is her name Maya Carter? Mom, I'm sorry I was wrong. My girlfriend's right here, don't hit me. Lucas was dragged into his room by the ear by Emily. Lily pursed her lips and quietly greeted Robert Carter. Feeling tough, are you? Emily said, annoyed. She had understood immediately that Lucas was asking if the girl was his secret biological sister. The more she thought about it, the angrier she got. She needed to find a chance to give this disaster of a son a good spanking. And he'd brought that girl into his room to touch her legs before. Her son used to be so well-behaved. How had he suddenly gone so off the rails? I was joking, Lucas said, rubbing his ear. I brought my girlfriend home, and you're still twisting my ear in front of her. Emily had a sudden realization. Oh, right, you just reminded me. I need to teach Lily that move. You've been scared of that since you were a kid. No. Lucas immediately panicked. He was already being subjected to Lily's signature head butts on a daily basis. If that dork learned this move too, would he even survive? Then you'd better behave. Don't make me mad, and don't make Lily mad, Emily said, sitting on the edge of the bed. Your dad and I are going to the hospital to visit someone. You watch the kid for the afternoon. Lucas almost choked. I'm worth millions now, and you want me to come home and babysit? Even if you were worth tens of millions, in my eyes, you're still just a kid in his early 20s, Emily said blankly. I thought you might be busy, which is why I specifically asked you. You're the one who said you were free. She reached out and pressed on his shoulders. Just think of it as practice for when you have kids. You're going to be a dad sooner or later, anyway. If you hadn't suddenly dropped this on me, I might have become a dad next year. You little brat. Emily sighed. This is your uncle's daughter. Her parents both had something come up, so she's staying with us for a couple of days. Lucas knew his mom loved kids and had a great personality, so relatives often left their children at their house. It wasn't that strange. He changed the subject. What are you and Dad up to? We're going to a funeral. Your great-uncle passed away. Oh, okay. Robert and Emily seemed to be waiting for another relative to arrive before leaving, so they weren't in a rush. Lily was playing with the little girl alongside Emily, while Lucas sat at the coffee table playing chess with his dad. To an outsider, it looked like a young couple who had brought their child home for a visit. Ever since high school, Lucas's chess skills had been on par with Robert's, and their games were usually a close match. How did my great-uncle die? Lucas asked, placing a captured cannon to the side. From an illness, Robert said with a soft sigh. No need for details. The diseases modern medicine couldn't cure were few and well-known. Do I need to go? No, just stay home and watch the kid. Lucas felt a pang of sadness. He seemed perfectly fine the last time I saw him. The old man hadn't had a single white hair back then. He had laughed and pulled Lucas in for several drinks, encouraging him to find a wife in college so he could come to the wedding. When he'd had a bit too much to drink, he had even whispered stories of his own heroic college exploits. And then, after not hearing anything for a couple of years, he was just gone. The last time you saw him was years ago, at your high school graduation party, Robert reminded him calmly. Lucas froze, a little dazed. It really had been several years. A person's life is short. Every time you see someone, it's one less time you'll see them again. From the moment you're born, it's all subtraction, Robert said, rubbing his forehead as he contemplated his next move. When I think about when I first met your mom, and when you were just born, it all feels like yesterday. Then you blink, and you realize your mom and I aren't young anymore. Lucas instinctively glanced over at Lily, a knot forming in his stomach. Coincidentally, Lily was looking at him too, but since they were at his parents' house, she quickly averted her gaze and went back to playing with a Barbie doll with the little girl. What are you thinking about? Robert asked quietly. Lucas turned back. Nothing. Just suddenly felt like it would be nice if life could just go on like this. You prefer the simple life? Simple is good. I thought you'd be more ambitious than me. A slight smile touched Lucas's lips. Your son has never been very ambitious. If it weren't for a lot of complicated factors and wanting to make a bit more money, I would have thrown in the towel a long time ago. Robert was non-committal. I hear your company's operating funds are in the 8 figures now. Yeah, then your future life won't have anything to do with simplicity. Once you're dealing with cash flows in the tens of millions it'll force you to spend all your time on it. Once your appetite gets bigger, it's not so easy to scale back. But everyone has their own path, as long as you know what you're doing. In chess, you can negotiate to take back a move. In life, if you choose the wrong path, that's it. Lucas grinned and moved his hand over one of his pieces, pleading, "Let me take one move back. My cannon shouldn't have gone there. Nope. I capture. Why are you on your phone the whole time?" Lucas noticed his dad had been looking at his phone throughout the game, which was odd. "Just something for work," Roberts said, moving his rook in front of Lucas's king. "Checkmate. Damn, you truly are my father." For some reason, that didn't sit right with Robert. It felt like the kid was complimenting himself, too. After the game ended, Emily stood up and called for Robert to leave. "Lily, we'll have to trouble you," Emily said in her gentle voice. "It's no trouble. Mom, what about me?" Lucas protested. He was the one stuck here watching the kid, too. "All right, you too." Emily nodded slightly, then looked at Lily with some guilt. "Lily, we'll have to trouble you with Lucas, too." "Lucas." As they waited for the elevator outside, Emily noticed Robert's phone was still lit up. She wrinkled her nose. "You didn't close your chess app." "All right." Robert slipped the phone into his pocket, feigning nonchalance. That little brat. How'd he keep getting better at chess when he barely even plays anymore? He couldn't even beat him without cheating now. Was he getting old? Emily couldn't help but roll her eyes at her husband. The old one and the young one, their family, had 1,000 tricks up their sleeves between them. Each was more devious than the last. She had been tricked into marrying into this family. While Lily was washing her hands, Lucas sat on the floor, having a staring contest with the little girl. "What's your name?" Lucas asked. "My name is Maya." "Maya, Chun." Lucas nodded. "My name is Ryan Reynolds. Remember to call me Big Brother." Maya looked up at him, her small eyes filled with great confusion. Wasn't his last name Carter? "Don't tease her," Lily said, walking back with a small cup of Jell-O, gently chiding him. "Big sister, feed me," Maya said, opening her mouth and showing her small white teeth. She was adorable. "Okay." Lily fed Maya 2 spoonfuls, then turned to see Lucas staring at her, blinking. "Big sister, feed me," Lucas said, opening his mouth wide, perfectly still. Lily froze, a blush instantly spreading from her face to the tips of her ears. You're getting jealous of a little kid." Maya stared blankly at Lucas, but he didn't care, his eyes still fixed on Lily. "Big sister, hurry up," Lucas urged. "Stop calling me that." The unexpected title made Lily's heart pound and her face burn. She quickly scooped up a piece of Jell-O with a plastic spoon and stuck it in Lucas's mouth, trying to shut him up. She was going to faint. Why on earth was he calling her big sister? And in front of someone else, no less. Maya looked up at her. "Big sister, your face is so red." "Your sister is probably just a little hot," Lucas said casually as he stacked building blocks into a tall tower. "The Jell-O was good. A shame it wasn't some fancy imported brand." Maya said, "Oh," and reached for the remote, dutifully turning down the thermostat a few degrees before returning to build with Lucas. Lily, who had just come back from washing her hands, immediately fled back to the bathroom to splash her face with water. The cool water on her burning cheeks finally calmed her racing heart. She looked up at her reflection, both mortified and annoyed. "Lily Thompson, you actually enjoyed that. You're such a pervert." She was clearly being corrupted by him, wasn't she? And Lucas was 2 years older than her. When she returned to the living room, she saw Lucas was back to bullying the child. "You've wronged me, you know that?" Lucas said with a stern face. After warming up to him, Maya was less shy, but she still asked timidly, "Why?" "I was supposed to go on a date to the amusement park with this pretty big sister," Lucas continued, feigning a fierce expression and holding up a Barbie doll. "But because I have to stay home and watch you, it's ruined." He sighed internally. This little brat was so annoying, ruining his plans. If she didn't behave, he was going to sell her. Maya hung her head, looking aggrieved. "Then you and big sister can go to the amusement park. And what about you? Someone has to watch you." Lucas was a little touched by Maya's childish but considerate words. He decided to take her out for some good food later. "Then I'll go with you." Lucas was stunned. Are there any honest people left in the Carter family? I'm the only good one left. A true gentleman, right here. Lily suppressed a smile and sat to the side, carefully arranging the Barbie doll's clothes. The little dresses were vibrant and beautiful, each one prettier than the last. It was a shame that toys she never had as a child held no appeal for her now. Just then, Maya's innocent voice piped up again. "Big brother, is big sister your wife?" "Of course," Lucas said, then turned his gaze to Lily, taking her hand. He asked with a wicked grin, "Right, wifey?" "Of course not." Lily didn't want to deal with him. He'd take any opportunity to get the upper hand, though the dork said that her hand remained obediently in his. Lucas wasn't satisfied. Just wait until I have a license for this, he thought. Let's see you play tough then. Looks like your sister isn't very willing. Maybe the feelings aren't there yet, sigh. Lily's cheeks puffed out. You just love bullying me. After playing with the toys for a while, Maya got bored and pitifully asked for a phone. Lucas was busy taking calls, so Lily had to give her own phone to the little girl. Coco Melon, a familiar, chirpy tune, started playing in the living room. Babysitting is too easy these days. Just give them a phone and they'll shut up, Lucas remarked, watching the now well-behaved Maya. Lily nodded lightly, her voice as soft as a mosquito's buzz. If only watching you were this simple. Getting him to drink hot water or even put on lip balm required coaxing, sometimes even a bit of seduction. Taking care of a boyfriend was much harder than taking care of a child. Lucas didn't hear her. He turned. What did you say? Nothing. I didn't say anything. She quickly waved her hands. If he'd heard that, she'd be dead. After a while, the novelty of babysitting wore off for Lucas. He sat on the sofa, watching Lily and Maya play. The dork seemed to have an endless supply of patience. She never got angry and was especially obedient with him. Lily held Maya in her lap, gently guiding her through a puzzle game on the phone. Every few minutes, she would coax Maya to put the phone down and would help her rub her eyes. Lucas stared, suddenly a little dazed. The scene made him think of what life might be like a few years down the road, after he and Lily were married. It probably wouldn't be much different from this. They should try for a daughter. That would be nice. Lucas shook his head hard. Whoa, what am I fantasizing about? He'd barely made it to first base. It was a long march ahead. He had to keep working. This dork seemed to have some kind of magic. When he watched her cook, he would also imagine a future where she cooked for him every day. Lily would occasionally look up at Lucas. This time, seeing him sitting there so still, she thought it was strange and assumed he was worried about work. Lucas was indeed worried, but he was worried about what to name their future child. Before she could look away, Maya leaned against her and let out a big yawn. Lucas watched, inexplicably envious. Kids had it good. All they did was eat and play, and when they got tired, they just slept. No work, no worrying about mortgages or car payments, and certainly no worrying about not being able to afford a wedding. Sleepy? Want to take a nap? Lily asked softly. Yeah, take her to my room, Lucas said quietly. His sister Emma was probably at class, so he couldn't ask her. He might as well just put Maya in his room. Even though he wanted to metaphorically bury Emma in a hole most days, he still spoiled his little sister. Many of the Barbie dolls were ones he had bought for her with his saved-up allowance. Okay, Lily took Maya to Lucas's room. Lucas sat on the floor, putting the toys back into Emma's toy box one by one. Halfway through, he smiled. That rotten sister of his had kept the dolls he gave her in perfect condition. Just then, Maya came running out, her little feet pattering on the floor. While Lucas was still wondering what was going on, she leaned in close to his ear and whispered, Big brother, don't be sad. I secretly asked Big sister just now, and she said she's willing to be your wife. I'm going to the bathroom. Don't tell her I told you, okay? Lucas couldn't help but smile as he patted Maya's head. How about I take you out for an all-you-can-eat buffet tonight? He looked at the little girl with the ponytail and found her more and more delightful. Not only was she cute, but she also knew just what to say. How could she not be adorable? Maya looked confused but nodded anyway, thinking how quickly this big brother changed his tune. He had been so fierce at first. I want to go to the amusement park, she mumbled, looking down. No kid her age didn't love to play. After your nap. Thank you, big brother. Maybe it was the excitement of going to the amusement park, but the little one woke up after less than half an hour. Lucas grabbed whatever he could find from his closet and threw it on. For guys, picking clothes was all about convenience. A t-shirt and pants were fine as long as they were wearable. No need to think about coordination. Just being willing to stick to black, white, and gray already put you ahead of 80% of the male population. When he came out, Lily was sitting on the sofa, tying Maya's hair, a hair tie held between her lips. Her movements were careful and gentle. The sight of her looking so much like a perfect wife and mother made him swallow hard. Damn, do I harbor the ambitions of a conqueror? He cleared his throat and asked, Park or amusement park? There's a park nearby where we can feed the swans. Maya's eyes darted back and forth. I want both. Lucas's jaw nearly hit the floor. What was with kids these days? He was certain he would never have said something like that as a child. There's not enough time. You can only pick one. Then let's go to the amusement park. A few minutes later, they were all ready. Lucas was holding Maya's hand at the door. Wait a second. Lily walked over, rummaging through her bag for lip balm. You two need to put this on. Nope, Lucas said rebelliously, biting off a piece of chapped skin from his lip to destroy the evidence. Maya looked up at Lucas, then suppressed a giggle. I'm not putting it on either. Lily was speechless. looking at the big one and the little one with a completely aggrieved expression. Lucas suddenly made a loud kissing sound. Mwah! Lily understood what he meant. Annoyed and flustered, she turned her face away. Maya, wait here for a second. Big brother and big sister are going to room to find some candy for you, Lucas said. Okay. A few minutes later, under Maya's yawning gaze, the door to Lucas's bedroom slowly opened. Lily walked over, knelt down, and applied an orange-flavored lip balm to Maya's lips. Maya, who had just refused, didn't protest this time. Doesn't Big Brother need to put some on? She asked curiously. Big Brother already put his on, Lucas said, leaning in to show her. He wasn't being good. We shouldn't be like him, Lily said pitifully. After Lily had applied lip balm to both the big one and the little one, they finally left the apartment. While waiting for the elevator, Lucas tried to take Lily's hand, but she forcefully headbutted him. Maybe his mom was right. It really was the dork taking care of two people. Lucas held Lily's hand, and Lily held Maya's. The whole scene felt a little bizarre to him. A perfectly good date had suddenly turned into a family outing. How many years had they just fast-forwarded? Lucas's place was pretty close to the amusement park. The drive was less than 20 minutes. The part that took another 10 minutes was finding a parking spot. You're on the phone with your girlfriend? She's upset. Just as the car stereo hit that line, Lucas turned back and sang along to Lily. Big Brother sings so well. Praised Maya, who was sitting in the back with Lily. Maya, when you grow up, remember to never be the third wheel for your best friend, Lucas joked, then looked in the rearview mirror. You didn't put on sunscreen? Lily shook her head. My sunscreen is at home. I didn't bring it. Lucas was exasperated. This dork remembered with perfect clarity whether he had put on lip balm today, but was completely careless about her own things. He sighed. Forget it. It's not that sunny right now anyway. They got out of the car and walked to the park entrance. The weather was beautiful. A clear blue sky with fluffy clouds drifting lazily overhead. It was a perfect day. The October-long weekend was over, but the park was still packed. From a high vantage point, all you could see was a sea of heads, though it wasn't quite shoulder to shoulder. Lily insisted on paying for the tickets, and Lucas didn't stop her, instead going to a vending machine to buy a few bottles of water. When he returned, he found Lily smiling sweetly at him, the breeze rustling her hair and t-shirt. The tickets are $10 cheaper than they were over the weekend. Look at you, all happy. Lucas couldn't help but laugh. It was so easy to make this dork happy. Once inside, the atmosphere changed completely. The park had just been renovated, and everything was decorated in a whimsical, cartoonish style. Maya was so excited she was practically bouncing with every step, freezing in place every time she saw something new. Lily was like a wide-eyed tourist, looking here and there, her eyes shining with curiosity. Do you want to put your things in my bag? Lily asked, leaning closer after they had been walking and holding hands for a while. It took a lot of effort for Lucas to hear her. With all the noise, talking to this dork was a real challenge. Her voice was too easily drowned out. It's fine, my pockets are huge, he said, stuffing his car keys and phone into one pocket, which already contained a power bank, his apartment key, wireless earbuds, and even a few candies for feeding Lily. He really couldn't understand why she needed to carry a bag everywhere. Lily, in turn, couldn't understand how Lucas could fit so much in his pockets. Was he a magician? What should we do? She asked softly again. The dizzying array of rides was overwhelming, and she didn't know where to start. In the distance, a group of people was being flung upside down on the infamous looping roller coaster. She could practically hear their screams from here. She didn't dare look, let alone ride it. Just watching the coaster go inverted made her heart race, as if she were already on it. Let's check the map, Lucas said, walking over to a retail shop and grabbing a map from a table. He glanced at the prices. Wow, the drinks were only $1 more than outside the park. That was practically a bargain. The jumble of attractions on the map was making his head spin, too. Have you been here before? Lily asked curiously, holding Maya's hand. Lucas nodded slightly. Last time was freshman year with my roommates. It's been a while. The image of Jason and Ryan violently puking into a trash can was still vivid in his mind, but now they had all gone their separate ways. It felt a little bittersweet. Maya's not tall enough for a lot of these rides, and you're afraid of heights, so we'll skip the really intense stuff, he said, looking at the map. Lily was secretly pleased. First, because he remembered, and second, because she wouldn't have to worry about dying of fright on a roller coaster. Lucas folded the map and stuck it in his pocket. It's a bit of a shame, though. Coming to an amusement park and not riding a roller coaster is like what? Like coming to an amusement park and not riding a roller coaster. With all the noise, he couldn't think of a good analogy. Just then, Maya, who had been quiet for a moment, tugged on both of their shirts. I want cotton candy. Let's get some. Lucas led them to a stall. He was surprised to see that even cotton candy had evolved. It now came in all sorts of colors. He looked at Lily. You don't want one? No, thanks. I'm a big kid now. Lily mumbled. You could be a little kid forever in front of your boyfriend. Lucas knew without asking that this dork had probably never had one. He held up 2 fingers to the vendor. 2, please. 2 cotton candies cost $15. Lucas couldn't remember how much they cost when he was a kid. Probably $1 or $2 at most. Damn, selling something with practically zero cost for this much was robbery. Forget starting a tech company. He should just set up a stall here and sell roasted sweet potatoes. Buy them for a few bucks a pound, roast them, and sell them for $15 each. The profit margin was insane. He even had a slogan ready. Autumn's first roasted sweet potato. Quick, buy one for your girlfriend. Seeing the blissful look on Lily's face, he decided to stop his internal ranting. Couples in the honeymoon phase were easy to fool, willing to be the ultimate suckers to make each other happy. Forget $15 a pop. If it made this dork happy, he'd pay 100 times that. He could afford it. Lily tore off a piece with her fingers and held it up to Lucas's mouth. He shook his head, refusing her offering. Instead, he took the cotton candy from her, found the spot where she had just eaten, and took a bite right there. The spot was slightly golden from her saliva. Lily desperately wanted to headbutt him, but there were too many people around, so she had to endure his roguish behavior. Maya suddenly grabbed Lucas's hand and pointed to the nearby bumper cars. Big brother, can we go on that? Lucas looked over, his expression pained. A bunch of people laughing like idiots while ramming into each other in slow-moving cars? How lame could you get? He was going to be a multi-millionaire CEO someday. Do you want to play? Lily asked in a very, very quiet voice. You want to play? Lucas caught the hint in her voice and suddenly felt that maybe he could stand to be lame for a little while. Lily nodded shyly. There were a few other couples in there. I want you to drive me. Lucas stared at the idiots in the cars, clenched his fists, and hesitated. He'd never been interested in this kind of ride, assuming it was something he'd never experienced in his life. Well, so much for that. Everyone laughs at the foolish king, but everyone becomes the foolish king. Just then, Lily, mimicking Maya, came over and took his other hand. She gently swung his arm, her blushing face turned away, leaving only her shy profile for him to see. She said nervously, "Be big, brother. Can we please go on that?" Lucas froze. Seeing her shyly averted face, he felt his heart clench. When had she learned to use his own tricks against him? But what kind of person do you take me for? Do you really think a respectable man like me would be so easily swayed? While his brain was thinking that, his mouth had already said, "All right, let's do it." Lily was delighted, but kept her head lowered, still blushing. It was so embarrassing. Lucas leaned and close to her ear. "Call me honey, and I'll play bumper cars with you all day." "No," Lily said, still looking away, the tips of her ears glowing red. "Don't," she added pitifully. They weren't even married, and he was already pestering her to call him that. What would he want after they were married? She didn't dare to think. Soon enough, the 3 of them had gone through the line and were settled in a bumper car. Lily held Maya in her lap, sitting obediently next to Lucas. This park's bumper car arena was large, and the cars were a bit faster than the ones at the local fair. It was actually pretty fun. Of course, getting hit was also a lot more jarring. "Big brother, let's hit them back." "All right." Seeing someone charging at them, Maya yelped, "Oh no, that person's going to retaliate. Run." "I'm running." "Geez, this is all your fault. Now the whole arena is out to get us." What was supposed to be a relaxing ride had been turned into a high-stakes battle by Maya. Under her command, Lucas drove like he had road rage, ramming into anyone he could. People tried to hit back, but it was useless. He wasn't just playing. He was weaving and dodging like he was in a Fast and Furious movie. They couldn't land a single hit. The experience was terrible for everyone else. Unlike Maya, who was absorbed in the battle, Lily spent the entire time watching Lucas's focused profile, occasionally smiling to herself. His expression had a kind of magic to it. Just seeing it made her feel safe. While Lily was lost in thought, their car was suddenly jolted, and she reflexively grabbed onto Lucas's arm. They had been hit by a couple of total extroverts, who both stuck their tongues out at them. Before Maya could issue a command, Lily gently tugged on Lucas's sleeve and mustered her courage. "Lucas, let's get revenge." A grin spread across Lucas's face. The objective was now crystal clear. They're so dead. A while later, they emerged from the bumper car arena. It turned out that being a little childish now and then was good for the soul. Lucas had actually had a great time. Why write things off as childish? Adults were just stubborn. So many potential moments of joy were dismissed with a simple, "That's a little childish." Not that many people cared if you were acting childish or not. As long as you were happy, that's all that mattered. Lucas decided to give himself the day off and continue experiencing these childish things. Thirsty. Maya pouted. Lily immediately took the water bottle Lucas had bought from her bag, unscrewed the cap, and handed it to her. Maya took a small sip, but didn't seem to want it. Lucas, exasperated, pointed to a stall selling fresh watermelon slushies a dozen steps away. She wants a slushie. Oh, Lily finally understood. She had to admit, in some ways, Lucas was even more attentive than she was. After Lily had paid for the park tickets, Lucas refused to let her pay for anything else. 2 small cups of slushie cost the same as the 2 cotton candies, and Lucas's mouth twitched in disbelief. For a moment, he wasn't sure if this place was a rip-off or not. Big brother, aren't you having any? Maya held up her cup with both hands, offering Lucas the first sip. I'll drink your sister's. Why does Big Brother always have to have big sister's things? Maya asked, confused. Silly question, Lucas shrugged. Because your sister and the slushie both belong to Big Brother. I do not belong to you, Lily retorted, but her hand obediently brought the cup to his lips for a sip. Maya finished her small slushie in a few gulps, but Lily seemed to be savoring hers, having barely finished half of it after several minutes of walking. And that was with her periodically offering it to Lucas. Of course, her little trick didn't escape Lucas, whose attention was always on her. He pointed to a trash can in the distance. There's a trash can up ahead. Finish it so you can throw the cup away. It'll be inconvenient to carry around. Only then did Lily say oh and dutifully drink the rest of her slushie. 750 gone in a few sips. A little heartbreaking. When they reached the pirate ship ride, Maya stopped in her tracks. I want to go on that, she said, her eyes shining as she pointed at the torture device. Your sister is afraid of heights, Lucas said seriously. Lily had found his office too high up. This would be a death sentence for her. Maya nodded obediently, but her hopeful gaze remained on Lucas. He cleared his throat. And if we go on alone, a bad guy might kidnap your sister while she's waiting. Lily squeezed his hand a little tighter. I'm not that dumb. You say that, but wasn't I able to trick you into coming to my apartment pretty easily? That's because I liked you, so my guard was down. Lily mumbled, turning her face away. She wouldn't fall for anyone else's tricks. She might be a bit gullible, but even the silliest girl wouldn't go to a guy's apartment alone, especially knowing no one else was home. Big brother, why aren't you talking? Maya asked blankly after a moment. Lucas finally recovered. It's nothing. Then let's not go on this. Let's do something Big Sister can do with us, Maya said sweetly. She really was more considerate than other kids her age. A good upbringing was so important. After all, children were blank slates. Whether they were inherently good or evil, their words and actions were just reflections of their parents. Lucas ruffled her hair. Good girl. Even without going on any thrilling rides, they had a wonderful time. Lily and Maya took turns picking attractions, and Lucas went along with them. When you're having fun, time slips away like sand through your fingers. Evening. Seeing that the line was short, they squeezed in to watch the musical fountain show. The fountain was illuminated, and the water danced in time with the music. It was interesting for a little while. Lucas yawned lazily, feeling a bit bored, but Maya and Lily were completely captivated. He watched Lily's profile, the shifting lights highlighting her delicate features, making her look even more gentle and lovely. He squeezed her hand, and a moment later, she squeezed back without taking her eyes off the fountain. Clearly, there was something in her heart more important than the show, something that held her attention at all times. He couldn't help but smile. His plan to help this dork experience life had taken another huge leap forward. He mentally awarded himself a medal. Maya looked up at Lucas, who was still staring at Lily, and blinked in confusion. Big Brother seemed a little cool and distant, but he was actually very gentle. And Big Sister was very gentle, too. Big Brother loved Big Sister very much, and Big Sister loved Big Brother very much. That was Maya's assessment after spending the day with them. She wasn't old enough to understand how 2 people with such different personalities could get along so well. Just then, Lucas's phone rang again. Hey, Mom, what's up? Okay, we're on our way back. You're treating me to dinner? You guys eat with her parents. I have to drop her off and go back to the office. Of course I have to go to the office. I've been unreachable all afternoon. They're probably freaking out. Stop yelling. Stop yelling. I'm the boss. What's wrong with disappearing for half a day for a date? Okay, we're really on our way back now. I'm almost at the car. Seeing Lucas hang up, Maya looked down and pouted, her expression crestfallen. She wasn't done playing yet. Playing with Big Brother and Big Sister was so much more fun than playing with toys at home by herself. Her mood soured, and suddenly the fountain didn't look so pretty anymore. The once beautiful music now just sounded like noise. Lucas seemed to see right through her. He leaned down and whispered, We're going to ride the Ferris wheel next. When you get back, remember to tell them we were stuck in traffic. A child's sorrow comes and goes quickly. Maya immediately beamed and nodded vigorously. Okay, this big brother seemed to know everything. She suddenly realized that it wasn't just Big Brother who was happy. Big Sister must be very happy too. The park's Ferris wheel was situated by a lake. As the sky darkened, its lights came on, and it continued its slow, steady rotation. Even the Ferris wheel terrified Lily. As soon as they got on, her legs turned to jelly, and she clung to Lucas's arm, unable to even stand. Their car slowly ascended. Maya was pressed against the window, excitedly watching the people below shrink into tiny dots. Open your eyes, or you came up here for nothing, Lucas whispered in her ear. Lily kept her eyes squeezed shut, wishing she could burrow into his embrace. Just try it. A lot of things aren't as scary as you imagine, Lucas soothed, his fingers intertwined with hers. Maya's not even scared. You're just scaring yourself with what you're imagining. That's all. Okay. Mustering her courage, Lily squeezed his hand and, after a long moment, dared to open her eyes. Seeing the lights twinkling all over the park and the calm, dark water of the lake beside it, her heart suddenly grew still. She forgot to be scared, completely captivated by the view. But she kept her grip on his hand tight. Thank you for taking me out to play, Maya said, sitting across from them, her legs dangling. She then stood up, gave Lucas a kiss on the cheek, and moved to kiss Lily. Only I get to kiss your sister's cheek, Lucas joked. Maya, true to her family's genes, was quick on her feet. Her eyes darted around. Then you can kiss her for me, Big Brother. My pleasure. Before Lily could react, Lucas planted a firm kiss on her cheek, then looked back at Maya. Come visit again soon. He loved clever kids like her. Okay. The Ferris will turn very, very slowly. After about 15 minutes, their car finally reached the very top. The scattered lights below had transformed into a sea of city lights. The heat of the day had dissipated, leaving behind the unique tranquility of the night. Maya had played herself out. After the initial novelty wore off, she had leaned against the side, her eyelids heavy. She was now fast asleep. Lily sat next to Lucas, her head resting on his shoulder, her eyes also closed. She had never let herself play so freely before, and now she was exhausted, on the verge of drifting off. Lucas shifted his shoulders slightly. When she didn't react, he leaned over and kissed her hair, saying nothing more. He sat quietly, looking out the window, a rare sense of peace washing over him. They say you live for just a few moments. In this one, he suddenly understood what kind of life he truly wanted. He had just started to yawn when his phone rang. It was a call from Titan Gaming. It definitely wasn't a courtesy call. It had to be important. Looking at the two drowsy girls, Lucas hesitated for 2 seconds, then declined the call. The car fell silent once more, with only the faint sound of their breathing. Lucas let out a soft chuckle and whispered, "A couple of dorks, coming up on a Ferris wheel just to fall asleep." Not a dork. Lily, half asleep, tightened her hold on his arm, refuting him out of pure instinct. "If you fall asleep, I'm going to kidnap you and take you home." Okay. By the time Lucas finished handing off the technical support for Titan, it was early November. By then, their first game, Tower of Ascension, had added another $300,000 to his personal account. The bad news was that, like other games on the Facebook Instant Games platform, its success was riding a wave of popularity that was about to crash. The insane profits wouldn't last, but Lucas wasn't too concerned. The revenue had already far exceeded his expectations. A person had to be self-aware, and he knew how immature their studio was when they made that game. As the saying goes, slow and steady wins the race. You can't rush things. You have to take it one step at a time. Lucas thought about this as he boiled water. Although he was currently limited to leg-touching privileges, he knew the day he unlocked more permissions wasn't far off. After all, even playing the long game required strategy. If you scared the frog, it would jump out of the pot. And then how could you cook it properly? Satisfied with his current approach, Lucas poured a cup of water and went back to his room. The air conditioner still hadn't been fixed, and Lily hadn't mentioned it again. When he entered, Lily was lying on her side on the bed. Seeing him, she quickly pulled down the hem of her shirt to cover the sliver of her slender waist that had accidentally been exposed. So-called experts have said that a girlfriend giving her boyfriend a few perks is beneficial to the harmony of their relationship, Lucas said gravely, blowing on the steam rising from his cup. My mom doesn't even believe those talking heads on the internet, Lily mumbled. Lucas placed the cup on the nightstand and lay down on the other side of the bed. Your mom is smarter than a lot of people her age, he chuckled. She didn't believe any experts. She only believed Lily. She didn't know if those experts were looking out for her health, but she knew her daughter definitely was. She just had to listen to her daughter. It was a shame so many people still couldn't grasp that simple concept. Sensing Lucas lie down, Lily turned to look at him, her eyes filled with an unconcealable joy. My mom can walk on her own for almost 10 minutes now. So next time I bully you, is she going to chase me down and beat me up? Lucas asked. His words made Lily giggle, her heart filling with hope for the future. Then just don't bully me. Besides, my mom would never hit you. You're so annoying, she thought. I'm already used to being bullied, and you're still saying things like that. Humph. As if you could stop yourself. It's a little cold. Lucas shivered and edged closer to her. Seattle didn't really have a spring, and it didn't have much of an autumn either. Once the heat was gone, it was time to freeze. What are you doing? Lily shrank toward the edge of the bed, watching him warily. Lucas found it strange. The day I got back from my trip, you came over and hugged me to sleep. And now you won't let me hold you. That was just that one time. The girl retreated under the covers, leaving only her clear, beautiful eyes exposed. I can't just let you get away with that for free, can I? You held me too, Lily argued, growing more afraid. Had he been pretending for the last few weeks? Was he finally going to make his move? Lucas shook his head. That doesn't count. I even let you use my arm as a pillow. No matter how you look at it, you got a free ride. He hadn't done anything then. He had been about to fall asleep when she snuggled up to him. It had nothing to do with him. Lily felt increasingly wronged. But you were the one who offered your arm. Did I? I don't remember. It was so long ago. Who can recall? Lucas smiled at her. Lily Thompson, you need evidence to make accusations. Do you have any? She didn't. The girl decided to surrender. She mumbled softly, if you just take a nap quietly, I'll let you touch my leg when we wake up. Okay? I'll draw on the sofa later, and you can rest your head on my lap. She never imagined her words would have the opposite effect. What are you talking about? Lucas sternly refuted her slander. I am a man of integrity. How can you make me sound so sordid? I just want to hold my girlfriend while we sleep. I have no ulterior motives. He said it with a perfectly straight face. Your suggestion that you can buy me off with a few perks is an insult to my character. You know that. Lily believed him. I'm sorry, she said softly, then voluntarily scooted a little closer to him. After a combination of threats and enticements, Lucas finally got his way. He wrapped his arms around the soft, fragrant girl from behind, placed his right hand on her abdomen, and then stayed perfectly still. We should go check on the apartment sometime soon. The one we bought. We could just get some basic furniture for now, Lucas said quietly after a moment. Lily nodded gently. Okay, the off-gassing should have been done by then, and it's definitely fine now. You and your mom can live there for a while. Before she could speak, he added, the lease on your current place is up this month, right? Lily was taken aback. She hadn't expected him to remember that. Is that okay? She couldn't help but ask. Lucas gently squeezed her stomach. If you keep this up, I'm going to lose control. Even this level of contact made her heart tremble. She tried to lean back to escape his demonic clutches, but her back hit the air conditioner remote. With a wolf in front and a tiger behind, Lily didn't know how to lie. She just froze, her body rigid. She felt aggrieved. It always seemed to happen this way. Only when Lucas's fangs were fully bared did she realize her boundaries had already been completely eroded. Where had things gone wrong? She couldn't figure it out. Even if she wasn't as smart as him, she shouldn't be played like this, right? What are you thinking about? Lucas asked, noticing her silence. Lily grabbed his arm and bit it gently, leaving a very faint tooth mark. I'm thinking about how much of a rogue you are. Lucas scoffed. What's there to think about? I'm only a monster for you. Really? Even though this wasn't the first time he had twisted things around, she couldn't help but ask again. Lucas brought his mouth close to her ear and breathed warm air against her skin. You're the only one I'll ever want. The warmth spread through her like an electric current, making her shiver. She pulled the blanket up higher and ignored the bad man. A few minutes later, Lucas's hand stealthily slipped under the hem of her pajama top. Lily flinched, but when she realized his hand was just resting on her stomach, she relaxed a little and closed her eyes again. A person's ambition tends to grow. Soon, his hand began to wander again. After a moment of hesitation, he cautiously began the ascent. If he didn't make her angry, he could successfully unlock a new permission. If he did, he'd have to retreat to his own room, back to square one. Lucas decided to take the risk. He'd accept the consequences. Luckily, he won the gamble. It was one thing to see the mountain, but climbing it was a completely different experience. Without the layer of fabric, the soft, yielding texture made his heart race. The girl opened her eyes and looked down at the lump under her shirt. What are you doing? I'm contemplating the meaning of life. In response, Lily pinched a bit of soft flesh on his arm, her most powerless form of punishment. This girl was gentleness itself. Even now, she was afraid of hurting him. You should probably unhook that. Doesn't it hurt your hand? You got it. Lucas was suddenly very obedient, doing exactly as she said. The things you experience when you have a considerate girlfriend. When it comes to mountain climbing, too high isn't good. It might look spectacular, but it's not always aesthetically pleasing, and the climb is exhausting. Too low isn't good either. There's no challenge, and reaching the top just leaves you with a feeling of that's it. Lily was the type that was just a little too much to hold in one hand. You always felt like you were just about to get a full grip, but you were always just short. It was like a mirage appearing before a man dying of thirst. It made you try again and again, always feeling so close, yet so far. You could never get tired of climbing. Lily kept her body turned away from him, letting Lucas continue his roguish behavior. What a gentleman. All eyes. The girl complained pitifully in her heart. A moment later, she quickly bit her finger to keep from letting out a soft moan. So embarrassing. Can we just go to sleep, please? Lily buried her blushing face in the pillow, already begging for mercy. Sleeping. Lucas reluctantly pulled his hand back and settled for just holding her. He wasn't greedy. Everything had to be done one step at a time. Besides, Lily was already indulging him so much. It would be too much to ask for more. In the beginning, she would get breathless from even the simplest skin contact. Who knew how much effort this dork had put in for his sake? A few minutes later, unable to fall asleep, Lucas sat up again. I'm going to the bathroom. When Lucas woke up around 1 in the afternoon, the space beside him was empty. As usual, Lily had gotten up early, and, as usual, he was tucked snugly under the covers. He stretched and walked out of the bedroom, only to be ambushed by the FBI. No, by Lily, who slammed into him with a powerful headbutt. Act! Lucas yelped, staggering back against the wall and clutching his stomach. What the hell? What was that for? If I die, you won't have a boyfriend anymore. His reaction startled Lily, who rushed over. Are you okay? I'll live. When Lily realized he was faking, she shot him a grieved look and returned to her desk to draw. Rule number 2 of the Lucas Prevention Handbook. Do not believe a single word Lucas says. Following the rule about not wearing sundresses in front of him, the girl added another entry to her handbook. Lucas rubbed the spot where she'd hit him and pulled up a chair next to her. The character on the screen was already taking shape. A cute, short-haired girl holding an adorable dumpling-like creature. It was clearly Nagisa Furukawa from Clannad. She must have watched the anime recently. Back when Lily first started drawing, he could offer some advice, but now he was completely out of his depth. Soon, probably even Aaron wouldn't be able to teach her anything. Lucas didn't deny that her rapid progress had something to do with her talent, but it was inseparable from the dork's relentless hard work. Lily's approach to everything seemed to be to just try her absolute hardest. He, for one, could never do that. The desire to slack off was in his genes, a Carter family heirloom. I've decided to deduct 1 point from you on the quantitative standards for a good boyfriend, Lily suddenly announced with great solemnity, still pouting. Lucas was intrigued. What new trick had she learned from her brilliant strategist? People these days, getting relationship advice from their single friends. It was the blind leading the blind. 1 point. Lucas feigned a pained expression. So how many do I have left? He figured she must have created some kind of rating system for him. Maybe if his score, out of 10, dropped below 6, she'd start ignoring him or something. Lily paused her drawing, tilted her head in thought for a moment, and then said very seriously, you still have. Lots and lots. Lucas, then what's the point of this whole system? He couldn't help but laugh. This dork was sometimes so cute, it was criminal. If Erin knew her advice was being used like this, she would probably lose her mind. The evaluation system was dead on arrival, because Lily liked him too much and had given him an absurdly high initial score. It was impossible to deduct enough points. What do you mean it's useless? Lily pouted, turning back to her drawing. She had finally worked up the courage to threaten him. Why wasn't it having any effect? Has your stomach been bothering you lately? Lily asked suddenly, halfway through a line. Lucas shook his head. No, I've been eating so regularly. Since moving into the rental, Lily had taken full charge of his diet and daily life. 3 square meals a day, regular as clockwork. It would be hard to get a stomachache even if he tried. Even when he wanted to cook for her, he had to fight for the chance. Lily had her own stubbornness about these things. Back home, when he was too lazy to get out of bed in the morning, his mom would just yell at him a bit. If she couldn't wake him up, she'd eventually leave for work, grumbling. Lily was different. She would bring the food over and feed him. No matter how lazy he felt, he would end up eating breakfast. You should drink some hot water. I'll go boil some, Lily said, standing up. If I drink the hot water obediently, can I get a point back? Lily nodded gently. You can. 1 point per time. That's okay too. Then I'll drink it. Lucas leaned back in his chair, watching her go, and couldn't help but smile again. The quantitative standards for a good boyfriend had died on its first day due to too many bugs. Lucas turned back to the computer and noticed several images open in the taskbar. He clicked on them curiously. They were a few crudely drawn 4-panel comic strips. At first, he was grinning. He never knew Lily had a talent for comics. This pig-headed character kept getting into trouble and getting beaten up. It was actually pretty funny. The pig was a real jerk and deserved it. If the era of gag comics hadn't passed, this dork might have actually made a name for herself. Back in the day, strips like Calvin and Hobbes were huge. Just as his grin was getting wider, he noticed his own name written above the pig's head. At that moment, Lily sat back down and saw what he was looking at. The atmosphere turned awkward. Lily's brain shut down for 2 seconds before she found the courage to sneak a glance at him. Lucas was staring at her, his face completely blank. I'm sorry, the girl whispered. If sorry was enough, what would we need the police for? Lily was getting scared. Small, pitiful, and helpless, she bit her lower lip. Finally, with a trembling hand, she reached down and pulled up her pant leg, exposing her smooth, pale thigh. Then she pouted, blinking her big eyes at him. Don't think you can get away with this. Do you think I'm that easy to fool? Lucas said righteously, while simultaneously reaching out to stroke her leg. Wow, so this is how she begs for forgiveness. This girlfriend was so cute it had to be illegal. So that little white rabbit beating up the pig, that's you? Lucas asked. It is. Then you should be living happily ever after with me, not beating me up every day, Lucas said, annoyed. Lily glanced at him, her clear, captivating eyes shimmering. Who told you to bully me all the time? I didn't. Then who was it that was bullying someone during our nap? That. Okay, fine. I'll try not to bully you in the future. Lucas felt a pang of guilt and didn't know how to argue. I don't believe you. Lily made a fierce face at him and turned back to her drawing. Stop drawing for a bit. Let's go kill some zombies, Lucas urged. He hadn't seen Lily battle the undead in ages, and he was getting antsy. Lily checked the time. I have 13 more minutes of drawing to do. Fine. On a whim, Lucas pulled out his DSLR and took a few pictures of her while she was focused. Since he'd gotten the camera, he had only ever taken pictures of Lily. He had quite a collection already. You could even see the subtle changes in her over time. Being with her every day, he didn't notice it, but looking at the photos, it was obvious. The most apparent change was that she was smiling more and more, and her moments of melancholy were fewer. She no longer just offered her profile to the camera. She was slowly getting used to facing it head-on. A sweet smile with faint dimples. Lucas knew, of course, that she wasn't smiling for the camera. She was smiling at him. Her eyes, which had once been slightly listless, were now clear and bright. He wondered what it would be like to look back at these photos years, or even decades from now. Looking at the girl in the viewfinder, Lucas suddenly froze. Lily was resting her chin on her hand, looking as if she were deep in thought. The bright afternoon sun washed over her delicate profile, seeming to freeze time itself. She was the very picture of a tranquil life. Lily turned and smiled. Quick, quick, Lucas urged in a soft, smiling voice. The next second, looking at the captured image, he couldn't help but grin. It was the first time he had ever caught her sticking her tongue out at him. Another major breakthrough. The old dork would never have done that. He put the camera away, content, and sat back down next to her. How much longer do you have to draw? 2 minutes, Lily said seriously. You had to hand it to her. Lily was incredibly self-disciplined. She would draw for an hour and then allow herself only 10 minutes of gaming, without fail. Every time, just as Lucas was getting into it, she would pause the game and go back to drawing. It drove him crazy. So, he ended up downloading the game on his own laptop, just to relive some childhood memories. But playing it himself wasn't nearly as fun as watching her. When he played, he could win with his eyes closed. He didn't even need the lawnmowers. He could finish a level without a single plant getting hit. But when a game becomes all about efficiency, it loses its fun. Lily was different. She could turn a casual game into a nail-biter, occasionally pulling off brilliant moves like planting a hypno-shroom behind a walnut. Then, after learning that the hypno-shroom only works when a zombie eats it, she stopped using it altogether. When she got nervous, she'd even plant things in the wrong row. And when a zombie got into the house, she'd cover her eyes, unable to watch. Watching her play was pure entertainment. Lucas felt the zombies had it the worst. They'd probably break open her head only to find it completely empty. A whole horde of brothers sacrifices themselves to breach the defenses, only to find it was all for nothing. The last zombie stumbles out of the house, looks at the carnage, and a groan escapes its rotten throat. It was all for nothing. Our mission has failed. The owner of this house has no brains. The thought was so vivid it was almost tragic. While Lucas was lost in his imagined melodrama, Lily suddenly said, "It's gotten so much easier to make money now." She pointed to the drawing on her screen. "This one painting will earn me a few $100s. That's because you had a good teacher, right?" Lucas said, looking at her smugly. Lily glanced at the time again, then put down her stylus and stretched, collapsing into Lucas's arms. It was now time for cuddling. The girl nuzzled against him like a cat, and instantly all her fatigue seemed to melt away. This man must have been a gift from heaven. If she hadn't met him, there were some things she never would have figured out on her own. Now, she could earn hundreds from a single drawing. As her skills improved, she would only earn more, and she wouldn't have to stand under the hot sun or deal with rude people. Before, all she knew was handing out flyers or waiting tables. Jobs where the pay never changed, no matter how many years you worked. The harder you are to replace, the more you can earn. It was a lesson she had suddenly learned. Anyone can hand out flyers, so when there are too many people competing, the pay is low. Why couldn't she understand that before? "What's wrong?" Lucas asked, looking at the motionless dork cat in his arms. "Hugs." 10 minutes later. "Why would you put a snow pea behind a torchwood? It's completely useless now." You could hear Lucas's blood pressure rising in his voice. Lily pursed her lips awkwardly, trying to look calm. "It's part of the plan. Lucas, you learn all the bad habits from me." "Huh?" he said, exasperated. She was even starting to talk like him. This could not continue. "What good habits do you have? All you do is bully me and act like a rogue." Lily grumbled as she shoveled away the misplaced snow pea. "I'm not. Don't slander me." Lucas rubbed his tired eyes. This monitor was from his freshman year of high school. The quality wasn't great, and it hurt his eyes after a while. "Let's get a new monitor. Don't your eyes get tired from drawing for so long?" He cursed himself internally. Damn it. How am I only thinking of this now? They don't. Despite her words, Lily couldn't help but blink a few times. "I use it too. It's time for a new one," Lucas said seriously. "But I don't know what kind of monitor is good for drawing. Ask Aaron." "Oh." Lily opened her WhatsApp chat with Aaron and began to type awkwardly. "I want to buy a monitor. Do you have any recommendations? Something a few $100s would be good." Lucas frowned and snorted. "That's the dumb way to do it. If it were me, I'd just say that any monitor under $1,000 is garbage. No exceptions." Afternoon. Lily had a class, so Lucas left at the same time, heading back to the office. He planned to pick her up after class to go see the apartment. As he approached the office, he could hear a racket from inside, even through the glass door. He pushed the door open, stunned, to see two groups of people huddled on opposite sides of the room, shouting. "Pure mid-lane diff, man. Seriously, Leo, how did you get solo killed by Aaron? That's just whack. Weren't you supposed to be the one to restore the honor of the programming team? Programming versus art. Final game of the best of 3. Taking bets. 1 can of Coke to enter." Someone finally noticed Lucas, and the noise quickly died down, eventually fading into silence. It had the same vibe as getting caught talking in class by the teacher peering through the window. "You guys?" Everyone fell silent, looking like they were preparing for a scolding. Under their trembling gazes, Lucas continued. "Are leaving me out? You're having this much fun, and you didn't invite the boss?" Lucas's complaint echoed in their ears, his focus clearly not where they expected it to be. "What's the score?" he asked, walking over to Leo Jenkins and peering over his shoulder. He was playing LeBlanc, going toe-to-toe with the enemy mid-laner. 1-1. The employee who had been taking bets mumbled meekly. Lucas nodded. This couldn't have been organized by the team during work hours on their own. Since he wasn't here, Jason must have started it. He waved for them to keep playing and hurried into Jason's office. "You have this much fun, and you don't even call your dad." Lucas complained loudly as he burst in. Jason, startled by the sudden intrusion, said dryly, "Dude, if you play, they'll have no chance. But they don't know that. So do they throw the match or not? A perfectly good competition turns into the Oscars. Just stay out of it with me. Why should we lower ourselves to their level?" He flicked his cigarette ash with an air of worldly detachment. "We could just be on opposite teams. You're just afraid you'll get embarrassed, aren't you?" Lucas looked at him disdainfully. "You think your dad doesn't know you?" Their old dorm had been a collection of players with all passion and no skill, except for him. When the 4 of them played together, the system would randomly match them with a lucky 5th player to suffer alongside Lucas. Jason, indignant, shot to his feet. "Bullshit. 1v1 me right now." Father-son match, you scared? Can you two grow up? Vanessa, who had been sitting quietly on the side playing on her phone, finally spoke up. If you put these two on the street, no one would guess they ran a company. Jason immediately sat back down. Vanessa, you're a lifesaver, he thought. I was worried Lucas would actually accept. Only then did Lucas notice Vanessa, practically camouflaged against the wall. Whoa, your white shirt blended right in. I honestly didn't see you. Clearly Lily spoils you rotten. You've forgotten how to say nice things, Vanessa retorted, tossing him a bag of chips. They had been friends since freshman year and were used to ribbing each other. Lucas popped a chip in his mouth. Damn right. My girlfriend is the best. Oh. Vanessa leaned back in her chair, arms crossed, and asked curiously, when you two fight, who usually gives in first? Lily's personality had left a deep impression on her. She had never met someone who could be so comforting without saying a single word. And the craziest part was, it had actually worked. Jason immediately got defensive. Why are you asking him that? What's wrong with asking? Vanessa was baffled by his reaction. Yeah, what's wrong with asking? Lucas echoed, then sighed dramatically. But I can't really answer that question. Because Lily and I never fight. He then turned into a relationship counselor. You two should argue less, too. You have to communicate. Fighting doesn't solve anything. When Lucas was kicked out of the office, he saw Erin Thompson packing up her things with a smug grin. Man, you guys are fragile, she said, her voice dripping with triumph. Just Venmo me the prize money. I'm off to class with the boss's girl. With that, she slung her bag over her shoulder and swaggered out. Lucas stared at the closed glass door, blinking. Why is she so cocky? What's wrong with you guys? The art team had 2 girls, and you still lost. Lucas asked Leo. Because of all the anti-wolf tips Erin constantly fed Lily, seeing her look this smug was worse than death for him. Leo pushed up his glasses, embarrassed. The art team was carried by those 2 girls. Erin was basically smuffing against us. You mean she was smuffing against you, right? You got solo killed by her twice this game. Another guy, apparently the jungler, chimed in. In competitive gaming, when you win, you're all brothers. When you lose, it's time to find someone to blame. I've been playing mobile games lately. I'm a bit rusty, Leo mumbled. Got it. Playing Genshin, Lucas summarized neatly. He walked to the center of the room and cleared his throat. All right, since that's over, let's have a meeting. We need to reallocate manpower for the 2 games. Before the meeting started, Lucas wrote a few large words on the clean whiteboard, his handwriting fluid yet sharp. Let it be known that on November 4th, Leo Jenkins was solo killed by a girl twice in lane. The programming team was defeated by the art team 2-1. May this serve as a warning. Only then did the meeting begin amidst the sound of suppressed laughter. In the lecture hall, Erin stared at the $500 transfer notification on her phone, still basking in the glorious afterglow of her victory. Lily sat primly beside her, her gaze fixed on the PowerPoint presentation, though her eyelids drooped every now and then. After coming down from her high, Erin suddenly noticed the strange atmosphere around her. She turned to see Lily wearing a black dress with a white belt cinching her already slender waist, giving her an air of cool elegance. Paired with her focused expression, she looked completely unapproachable. Erin was stunned. How could one person pull off both gentle and cool so perfectly? And that figure. It had to be impossible to lie flat. She glanced down at her own flat chest and suddenly felt like dying. Didn't sleep well at lunch? Erin whispered. This professor was strict, so she didn't dare to be too obvious. The moment the words left her mouth, Lily's cheeks flushed crimson. She immediately buried her face in her arms on the desk, like an ostrich. A few seconds later, a muffled hum emerged. Erin's mind instantly conjured up 1,000 R-rated scenarios. Lucas, you bastard. Lily, you look so chic today, I love it. Erin gushed as soon as class ended. My heart is pounding. I think I'm going to faint. Are you okay? Where does it hurt? Lily looked at her with wide, worried eyes. Erin put a hand to her forehead and sighed. And the illusion is broken. She envied this dork who was so naturally blessed. She could pull off any style. She had to convince Lucas to trick her into wearing cosplay sometime. Even though Lucas would be the one to ultimately benefit, at least Erin could get an eyeful. Did Lucas buy you this outfit? She asked. Yeah, we're going out later, so he told me to dress up a little, Lily said, then looked at her pitifully. Erin, the method you taught me didn't work. It should have, Erin said, scratching her head. That's not how it went in the dramas. 2 minutes later, an exasperated cry echoed through the classroom. Why did you give him so many starting points? You set the bar so low from the beginning. Of course he's going to push your boundaries and bully you. That was basically the same as saying, go ahead, walk all over me, I'll still love you no matter what. But he really does have that many points in my heart. Lily said, looking down and fidgeting with her fingers like a child who had done something wrong. Erin felt like she'd been punched in the gut. She almost coughed up blood. Then just lie, she said helplessly. Tell him he only has 10 points, then he'll get nervous. Lily bit her lip and looked up at Erin, who was now standing. I don't want to lie to him. Erin felt like she had been struck by lightning. She slumped back in her seat like a deflated balloon, her eyes dim. When you go out, don't tell anyone I taught you anything. It's too embarrassing. Is there no other way? Lily still hadn't given up on resisting Lucas's tyranny. Erin, her spirit crushed, said, hoping you'll get smart enough to handle Lucas is a long shot. You'd have better luck hoping you give birth to a kid who's smarter than him to keep him in check. There you go again, Lily chided. Just then, a few girls walked over from the back of the classroom. Lily, we're going to the Cheesecake Factory tonight. Want to come? Asked the leader of the group, a girl with a cool, striking look. She was their class president. Startled by the sudden invitation, Lily stammered, unsure how to refuse. She had barely exchanged 2 sentences with this person since freshman year. Why was she suddenly calling her Lily? After a few seconds of awkward silence, she finally managed to squeeze out a few words. Thank you, but I have other plans. The girl nodded, then, as if just noticing Erin, asked, What about you, Erin? Erin forced a polite smile. Sorry, I got something too. Well, maybe next time. Watching them walk away, Erin curled her lip in disdain. Lily was becoming more and more prominent in their class. It was partly because she was starting to put more effort into her appearance, but it also had to do with the growing reputation of Lucas's company. Telling these college students that a gaming company was growing fast might not mean much, but connecting it to Titan Gaming, a company they all dealt with daily, was a different story. Not a single student hadn't been ripped off by Titan at some point. Erin was scornful of this behavior. When Lily had applied for financial aid, this same class president had been completely indifferent. Back then, when Lily would miss messages in the group chat because of her part-time jobs, no one had ever been so kind as to remind her. Where's all this concern before? She thought with a silent scoff. She turned to Lily. Everyone seems to want to be your friend now. How does it feel? I don't feel anything. Lily was packing her books, using one to cover a small yawn. She then gave Erin a faint smile. Having you and Lucas is enough to make me happy. Erin was deeply moved, automatically filtering out Lucas's name. She took Lily's hand, her eyes welling up. I'm taking you out to dinner with my entire scholarship fund. We're going to that new trendy Italian place downtown. I have to go look at an apartment with Lucas, Lily said, her expression troubled. Question mark. A ring of question marks seemed to appear over Erin's head. Did she hear that right? Look at an apartment. Lily's eyes dropped, and she nodded shyly. A marital home? Erin pressed. No. Seeing Lily fidgeting with her fingers and mumbling, Erin couldn't hold back anymore. The hell it's not. Your face is betraying you. Give me back my emotional moment. She was about to say more when she saw a crowd forming by the classroom door, gathered around a guy, laughing and talking. Looking closer, she realized it was Lucas. Your husband is here, Erin said, patting Lily's arm. It was the first time she'd seen him come to the classroom to find Lily. How novel. He said he was going to pick me up. Erin rolled her eyes. Wow, you're not even denying it anymore, are you? Too lazy to even pretend. They quickly packed their things. Just as Erin was about to walk over, Lily suddenly stopped. Lucas seemed busy. She didn't want to interrupt. Hey, Lucas, you got to save some spots at your company for us. You've already hired so many people from the other departments, a few students joked, crowding around him. While not exactly famous, Lucas was becoming a well-known figure on campus. Unless you were completely off the grid, it was hard not to know who he was. No problem. Got to keep in the family, right? Once the company gets a bit bigger, I'll definitely prioritize you guys. I'll sponsor the budget for your class's event at the winter formal this year. You guys can use the money to buy some good food for your class parties. Really? You guys have been looking out for my girlfriend. I can't let you do that for free, Lucas said with a faint smile. She's so introverted. I know I can count on you guys to help her out. We're all classmates, of course. And you're looking out for us, too. Erin was surprised. Lucas obviously disdained people like this, but because they were Lily's classmates, he could put on a perfect show. Those two were really perfect complements for each other. Oh my God, she thought, suddenly stunned. When did I become mature enough to feed myself this PDA? Lily still showed no intention of going over, waiting obediently next to Erin. Just then, after a lull in the conversation, Lucas leaned out and shouted, Wifey, stop dawdling, let's go. Stop yelling. Stop yelling. Lily scurried over, grabbing his arm and trying to pull him toward the stairs, not daring to look at anyone else. But even with her head down, you could see the mix of joy and shyness on her face. Even the faint blush on her cheeks was endearing. Erin stood there, frozen, having forgotten how to move her legs. You too. You're going to be the death of me. Lily pressed her forehead against Lucas's back, her eyes fixed on the floor, pushing him forward. How could he be so shameless? With so many people in the hallway watching, if he kept yelling, how was she supposed to show her face ever again? Now, when people saw her, their first thought wouldn't be, look, that's Lucas's girlfriend, but look, that's the girl who got called wifey in the middle of the hall yesterday. Why can't I call you that? Lucas asked as she pushed him, not quite done enjoying himself. There was a difference between calling her that in public and in private. In private, it felt like playful banter. In front of others, it felt much more official. It's so embarrassing. If you yell it again, I'm going to pull you off this balcony with me, Lily mumbled. Lucas dug in his heels, refusing to be pushed any further. He stopped and asked, you don't want to be my wife? I just said, don't yell in front of so many people. I didn't say, I don't want to. Lily's voice grew smaller and smaller until it was a tiny, pitiful whisper against his back. Lucas was satisfied, as if this was the only answer he had been digging for. He turned around, took her hand with a grin, and said, let's go. Time to go see the apartment. Holding hands, they walked down the staircase, step by step. Are you really going to cover their budget? Lily asked in a small voice, still trying to process what Lucas had just said. It's not much money, and this kind of goodwill is the cheapest thing to buy, Lucas said with a shrug. There's an old saying, it's hard to say no to someone who just did you a favor. From now on, they'll look out for you in class, especially the class president. Just watch, you won't even have to apply for any of those student aid funds anymore. They'll just do it for you. That, Lucas said, drawing out each word, is how the world works. What if someone takes you seriously? You are such an adorably naive girlfriend. I was just selling them a dream. We're all adults. No one's going to take that literally. And even if they did, my company's minimum hiring requirement is a college degree. By the time they graduate, you'll be long gone, and I won't have to deal with them. Lucas took a few more steps down, then turned to look up at her. With a few stairs between them, they faced each other, one high, one low. Next time, how about you try not hiding behind me? Just try standing beside me. Okay, he said softly. As much as she teased him relentlessly when they were alone, his sweet goofball was still a top-tier introvert in public. She had a habit of shrinking behind him whenever she had to face other people, just like she had moments ago. It was cute, undeniably cute, but he knew it wasn't healthy in the long run. If he were a selfish man, he'd probably want her to be completely dependent on him, to be unable to function without him. But he wasn't. Being Lily's rock and being her crutch were two completely different things. Lily bit her lip, a conflicted look on her face. Since getting together with Lucas, she'd admittedly gotten a little lazy, always thinking it was easier to just let him handle things. Besides the necessary exchanges, she was still terrible at dealing with people. Thinking about it now, she realized she hadn't made much progress. She was still just as shy as before, instinctively avoiding social interaction. Lucas smiled gently. Of course, I'd be willing to protect you for the rest of my life, he said, his voice soft. But we also promised each other we'd get better, together. Lily looked down, thinking for a moment before nodding seriously. I'll try harder from now on. Like coaxing a child, Lucas smiled and clapped his hand softly. Come on down. You get a kiss as a reward. Who's rewarding who here? Lily muttered, exasperated, but she dutifully walked down to the step where he was standing. Lucas shot her a sidelong glance. So, you don't want it? I do. Half an hour later, the car pulled up in front of Maple Creek Estates. Lucas had heard that after a long back and forth between the developer and the homeowners, the complex had finally been completed and handed over earlier this year. He didn't know all the details, only that by the time he bought the place, the trailblazing complainers had already solved most of the problems. Shoddy window quality, a leaky parking garage, even a half-finished community garden that had been abandoned. He was reaping the rewards of their labor. Besides its prime location, the complex's main selling point was its landscaping. Just inside the gate, a rock garden and a fountain greeted you. The buildings were surrounded by manicured flower beds and lush greenery. Here and there, you could even spot a gazebo. Standing at the entrance, Lucas looked at the sign and felt a vague sense of irritation. Community names these days just keep getting worse. He couldn't help but complain. Though he supposed it wasn't the name that determined a place's prestige, but the price tag, like those billion-dollar penthouses downtown. What would you call it? Lily asked, tilting her head curiously. I have no idea. I'm just nitpicking. Doesn't mean I have any better ideas, Lucas admitted. He thought for a long time, but couldn't come up with anything better. Suddenly, Lily seemed to remember something. She poked him in the side with her index finger. You're so lazy. You didn't even name your own company. Don't mock me. We're two peas in a pod when it comes to naming things. Your ArtStation handle is still world's smartest Lillipad, remember? I think it's cute, Lily said meekly. Then, her eyes lit up. She grabbed his arm and pointed toward a gazebo in the distance. That looks just like the one on campus, the one we used to go to during our lunch breaks. Lucas agreed it did look similar, except that hanging out here in the summer would be an invitation for mosquitoes. It's been a while since we've been there. Want to go again sometime? She asked. She really loved that spot. It held so many memories for her. It was in that gazebo that she'd had her first peaceful nap in years. And how am I supposed to hold you while you nap there? Lucas teased. Seeing her pout, he quickly cleared his throat. Ahem, I mean it's too cold now. I'm worried you'll catch a cold. Lucas, be careful you don't turn into Pinocchio one day, Lily threatened under her breath. He was the worst, always tricking her. Hey, I'd love that, Lucas said nonchalantly. If I were Pinocchio, the first thing I'd do is say, the winning lottery number is, and see if my nose grew, or this stock is about to skyrocket. I could support you just by sitting at home and playing around. He warmed to his theme. If I wanted to get serious, I could even go into scientific research. Pinocchio is basically a cause and effect weapon. It can instantly determine if something is true or false, ignoring all other factors. The only limit to its power is human imagination. Lily turned her face away, refusing to speak. Her boyfriend's brain was definitely wired differently. Lucas walked over to a holly bush and rustled the leaves. At least there will be fewer bugs now. Your mom can come out for walks more often. Just as he finished speaking, an elderly couple approached them. The grandfather, well past 70, was in a wheelchair, being pushed slowly by a slightly younger-looking grandmother. Lucas stepped aside to let them pass, but the old man suddenly reached out and pointed at him. Kyle, you're back, he asked his wife, his voice raspy. Before Lucas could say anything, the grandmother gently patted the old man's hand. Your grandson isn't this tall. Fall break was weeks ago, honey. Kyle's back at school. The grandmother gave them an apologetic smile. She wore gold-rimmed glasses and had a refined, capable air about her. I'm so sorry. Most days now, he only remembers me, she said, her tone filled with apology. For some reason, Lucas felt that beneath her sadness, there was also a hint of pride and happiness. She took out a tissue and gently wiped the corner of the old man's mouth, her eyes full of affection. Kyle, you found a girlfriend? The old man asked, clearly not having heard his wife. A faint smile appeared on his wrinkled face. Lucas leaned down and smiled back. Yes, Grandpa. Isn't she beautiful? He figured calling an elder Grandpa was just good manners. It wouldn't cost him anything, and it made the old man happy. The old man's face lit up even more, his previously vacant eyes clearing for a moment. Good, good. Once you get a job and get married, I won't have any worries left. The grandmother sighed softly, seemingly used to this. She looked at Lucas. You two look so young. Are you college students? I just graduated. My girlfriend is still in school, Lucas said. While they were talking, Lily quietly knelt down and adjusted the blanket covering the old man's legs. Her movements were practiced and careful, and soon his legs were wrapped up snugly against the chill. The grandmother looked surprised. Oh dear, you're so thoughtful. And so beautiful, too. You two make a perfect couple. It's wonderful. Lily stood up and bit her lip. She instinctively wanted to step behind Lucas, but remembering what he'd said, she held her ground, nodded slightly, and murmured, I'm pretty familiar with this sort of thing. It seemed elderly people were often chatty. After a few more minutes of pleasantries, the grandmother pushed the wheelchair and continued on their way. Why are we out here? The old man asked. You asked me yesterday to take you for a walk today, remember? The grandmother said gently. I did not. Let's go back. Oh, come on. We're already out. Just keep me company for a little while. Sigh. I spoil you too much. John, that's not fair. You were the one who went on and on about it yesterday, and now you're saying it was my idea? The two couples parted ways, heading in opposite directions. They have such a wonderful relationship. Will we be that happy when we're old? Lily asked quietly. Lucas frowned. I thought you were going to ask if we'll grow old together. Don't jinx me. And yes, you'll be even happier than that when you're old. Lily glanced back at the retreating figures of the elderly couple, then snuggled closer, tightening her grip on Lucas's arm. Because I know we'll grow old together, the girl said with absolute certainty. She then changed the subject. Why are you a little insecure about our relationship? Don't you believe that I'll always love you? That's not it. I believe it, okay? Lily suddenly found it strange. Lucas was always telling her to be more confident, yet he himself was clearly a little insecure, at least when it came to their relationship. It was like a doctor who couldn't heal himself. He was so good at giving her a sense of security, but it was the very thing he seemed to lack most. It's okay if you don't believe it, Lily hummed, a small smile playing on her lips. She held his arm even tighter, resting her head on his shoulder. It didn't matter anymore which girl had hurt him so badly in the past. A sudden gust of wind lifted a few strands of hair from her cheek and rustled the surrounding plants. It also carried her gentle words to Lucas's ear. "We have our whole lives ahead of us. I could take my time proving it to you." A new house was a new house. The moment they stepped inside, they could feel how much brighter and more spacious it was than the rental. It was a simple, move-in ready unit. The floor tiles were new, the walls freshly painted. There was no need for a major renovation, just furniture. Lucas walked into the living room and stood there, taking it all in. A house he owned felt different, somehow. If things had gone according to plan, he'd be like Vanessa right now, having just taken the bar exam, debating whether to go to grad school or become another cog in the machine at a law firm. He bought a house much earlier than he'd ever expected. This goofball had completely altered the course of his life. Of course, it was mutual. He had changed her future just as profoundly. The timeline where they each lived their lives alone no longer existed. Their paths had merged the day they met. Fate was a strange thing. A second before he met Lily, he never would have imagined meeting a girl like her. And in that first moment he saw her, he certainly never dreamed she would one day be his girlfriend. Lucas took her hand and led her into the master bedroom, the most spacious room in the apartment. It had to be at least twice the size of his room at the rental. He tapped the wall next to the window. "I'll get you a desk to put here, and you can do your art right here." It was the perfect spot. When her eyes got tired, she could just turn her head and look outside. He'd secretly buy her a high-end desk and chair set. She wouldn't know the difference anyway. Lily shook her head gently. "No, thank you. I can't draw when you're not around." "All right, this room is all yours. I'm going to figure out how to design the living room. Can't let that gorgeous floor-to-ceiling window go to waste." With that, Lucas walked out, feeling a rare surge of excitement. Watching his retreating back, Lily smiled to herself. She knew, of course, that he had specifically chosen a place that was close to both his parents' house and the rental. That way, no matter where he was, he could get to her as quickly as possible if she needed him. So much of her security came from these silent, thoughtful details. Her courage hadn't grown. She had just found someone she could rely on. Lucas had loved floor-to-ceiling windows since he was a kid. As he stood in the living room, planning the layout, Lily walked out of the bedroom. "I'm a little excited," she confessed. "Look at you, getting all worked up over a little apartment like this." Lily turned her face away and, after a long pause, managed to say, "Because this is where we'll live when we get married. You have no ambition. My girlfriend is gentle and beautiful. The man who marries you should at least provide a penthouse or a huge house in the suburbs." With her hands clasped behind her back, Lily took 2 steps toward the balcony, the hem of her black dress swaying with her movement. Standing in the center of the balcony, she turned back. "I don't care about that." Lucas threw his hands up in exasperation. "This is why you're the silliest girl I know." "I'm silly, which is why I ended up in the clutches of a rogue like you," Lily retorted, biting her lower lip and muttering under her breath. Before she knew it, she was spending every afternoon with him. Then, before she knew it, they were somehow sleeping in the same bed. And then, no more in this. She stopped her train of thought, glancing down. How had he managed to get his way so easily? She had to get smarter, or one day she'd find herself with a baby before she even knew what happened. Lucas walked over and wrapped his arms around her waist, pulling her into an embrace. "It's too late for regrets now. Just try to be smarter in your next life." "I don't regret it. And in my next life, it'll be my turn to trick you." She couldn't let him bully her in every lifetime. Could she? That would be too pathetic. The tables had to turn eventually. "Just you wait, Lucas Carter." Lucas couldn't help but laugh. "So you've already given up fighting this time around?" "I have not. You just wait." The girl mumbled into his chest. Despite her words, her body was already pressed motionlessly against his, savoring the feeling of security. "By the way, I've changed my mind. We'll buy new furniture when we get married," Lucas said suddenly. "Even though the deed is in my name, this house is for you and your mom to live in. My parents agree." Lily looked up, blinking her wide eyes at him. "Did I fall for another one of your tricks?" How many traps had this man laid for her without her knowing? Another one? Don't make it sound so bad. I told you before, don't draw such a fine line between us. Me and all my money will be yours sooner or later, just like you and all your money will be mine. Keeping score just hurts feelings. So that whole speech was just to set this up? Lily wasn't sure if she should feel touched or just bang her head against his chest. It seemed entirely possible, considering this was the same guy who had endured nearly a month of motionless afternoon naps, just for the chance to hold her while she slept. "No, I didn't. If you really feel bad about it, You can apply for a loan from me, Lucas said with a raised eyebrow. Lily's mouth fell open, her eyes vacant. I don't think I could ever pay it back. What could be more despairing than suddenly being saddled with a six-figure debt? Even if she charged $500 for a single portrait, how many would she have to draw? It was countless. Lucas's interest was immediately piqued. It's okay if you can't pay it back. I also accept. Seeing the look on Lily's face, the one that said she was about to launch a rocket-powered headbutt, Lucas wisely swallowed the rest of the sentence. This goofball didn't play fair, trying to ambush a poor old man like him. A moment later, Lucas watched Lily start to sweep up some dust and sighed helplessly. Her way of thinking left him at a loss. A corner of his mouth twitched, and he sidled up to her again, breathing softly against the back of her ear. Ms. Thompson, have you considered my offer? Will you choose to make slow repayments, or will you mortgage your entire self to me? You could also choose to consider it our joint property. That way, you won't have any debt, and naturally, you won't have to pay anything back. The warm breath on her neck made Lily, who was sweeping, jump as if she'd been electrocuted. Flustered and annoyed, she looked up at him, a few strands of hair escaping from behind her ear to rest on her cheek. Her eyes grew moist, her breathing quickened, and finally, she said in an aggrieved tone, I'm not paying. This man spent every day either trying to trick her into his bed or bullying her in some other way. Pay him back. Pay him back my foot. Exactly. That's the spirit. Lucas nodded in satisfaction and planted a loud kiss on her cheek. I've still got a couple $100,000 in the bank. Is there a car you like? No. All right, I'll look up some furniture stores nearby. Lucas walked off to the side. Lily stood there, stunned into silence. What kind of bank was he running here? Maybe we should just spend the money and hire a designer to pick everything out for us. A few grand, and a professional can coordinate the whole thing, Lucas suggested after a while, his voice lacking energy. We wouldn't have to lift a finger, and it would look great. A few $1,000s was pocket change for him now. It was worth it for the convenience. Lily walked over and gently shook his arm. Let's go look at furniture stores together later, okay? She said, her clear, beautiful eyes blinking up at him. Then we can eat out tonight, and the money we save can buy me dresses. It's so much money, you could buy lots of the ones you like for me to wear for you. The period-style ones, too. Is this for real? Lucas's IQ immediately plummeted to 0. Completely captivated by her combo attack, he was now putty in her hands. His mind was filled with images of Lily in all sorts of beautiful outfits. There was no room for any other thoughts. Lily nodded, satisfied, and turned back to her cleaning. As she swept, she sighed silently. Ugh, life is hard. Saving money is even harder. A long while later, with his intelligence finally rebooted, Lucas's jaw went slack as he stared at Lily. He was starting to suspect he was completely and utterly wrapped around her little finger. And this goofball, the moment she saw her cute act had worked, she went right back to business. Seriously? You're not even going to humor me for another second? He sighed again. When it came time to decorate their actual marital home, he absolutely could not let Lily give any input. This girl was just too powerful. All it would take is a little pouting and acting cute, and their mansion would end up looking like a dorm room. When guests came over, they'd say politely, your place is so spacious. You could play badminton in the living room. That's a mansion for you. What they'd really be thinking, good grief, in a mansion this big, the living room only has a sofa and a coffee table, and the bedroom just has a closet and a bed. The thought made Lucas purse his lips. If he ever had a daughter, he was going to spoil her rotten. Otherwise, she might end up like her mother, never having had a nice thing, and get swept off her feet by the first guy who comes along. Then, she'd be on the verge of being eaten alive and still be trying to save the guy money. A true national treasure. What's wrong? Lily asked, noticing that Lucas was still daydreaming. Just thinking, Lucas said, scratching his head and going back to figuring out what they needed to buy. This was far more overwhelming than when he'd first moved into the rental. Back then, he just needed to think about basic necessities. Now, good grief, they needed everything. He had no idea where to even start. The apartment was a completely blank slate. Lucas wanted to sit down and sigh, but a quick scan of the room revealed there was nowhere to sit. He threw in the towel and plopped down on the floor. Lily pointed to the other side of the living room. I've finished cleaning over here. You can sit there. I'm already sitting. My pants are dirty now anyway, so whatever, Lucas said, waving her over. Come look with me. When we're done, I'll help you finish up. It looks weird with you cleaning like a maid. Anyone watching would think I was making you do all the work. You were just trying to be my creditor. Lily mumbled, but she obediently came closer. If you just admit this is our joint property, I wouldn't be your creditor anymore, Lucas said with a shrug of mock regret. It's a good thing you caved, Otherwise, I'd make you do housework every day dressed in a French-maid outfit. Lily pouted and poked in the chest. You have a black heart. To even think of something like that. She couldn't begin to imagine the depths of her boyfriend's depravity. Lucas caught her hand, stopping her from poking him. Behave. Let's figure out where to buy furniture. Although he never planned to live here himself, he had to get these things set up beforehand. He couldn't leave it to Lily. This goofball would cheap out on everything she possibly could. She probably wouldn't even buy a sofa. He could just imagine coming over one day and finding her cooking on a $20 hot plate. Lucas sat cross-legged on the floor, not wanting to get her dress dirty. Lily hesitated for a moment before settling onto his lap. Well, aren't you clever? He teased. This dress was a gift from you. All right. After a few minutes of discussion, they decided on a few stores to check out. Lily then stood up, getting off his lap. It was lumpy. Seeing her turn her face away, refusing to meet his eyes, Lucas naturally guessed the reason. He stood up, slightly embarrassed, and went to help her sweep. Sometimes, being young wasn't all it was cracked up to be. Neither of them wanted the other to do more work, so they moved quickly, and soon the floor was swept. Lucas figured they didn't need to be too thorough, since they'd have to clean again after the furniture was moved in. Even so, Lily had made the floor tiles spotless, making the new apartment feel even newer. Lucas dusted off his hands and let out a deep breath. All done. Lily pointed to the slightly grimy windows. We should wipe down the windows, too, since we're here. Fine. I'll go get the Windex from the car. Lily was remarkably efficient at housework. Lucas watched, mesmerized. He'd never seen anything like it. I think if you became a professional cleaner, you'd drive all the slackers out of business, he remarked in awe. I would not. Lily, thinking Lucas was being silly, replied seriously, You taught me that the easier a job is to replace, the harder it is to make money from it. It's a shame not all girls think like you do. Washing windows was a much more patience-testing task than sweeping. Before long, Lucas couldn't take it anymore. Do we really need to be this meticulous? He leaned against the nearby wall, his arms aching. It would be so much better to hire cleaners for the windows. They can even do the outside. We can't. The outside can wait for it to rain, Lily said earnestly as she worked, completely unaware of how silly and naive she sounded. It was 73 degrees today, not hot, but beads of sweat were already forming on her cheeks, sticking a few loose strands of hair to her face. She was so focused on her task that she didn't even bother to tuck them behind her ear. Her words made Lucas grin. Watching the delicate profile of the girl beside him, her face a mask of concentration, he suddenly froze. What was wrong with him? If he paid someone to do this, he'd be out the money and he'd lose the chance to do these things with her. What a total sucker move that would be. He decided then and there. They would furnish their future home together. Good or bad, it would be theirs. Even if the furniture and decorations were simple, they would be things they chose together. That would make all the difference. Lucas obediently picked up the rag he had tossed aside and went back to helping. You can rest, really? I'm almost done, the girl said softly, noticing his return. Although she knew Lucas's earlier whining was exaggerated, she'd still taken it seriously. She gently tried to push him away. It'll be just a minute. You want me to rest while you work by yourself? Lucas said, exasperated. That will make me a real jerk. Lily gave him a small smile. A single drop of sweat rolled down her cheek, but her voice was light. It's okay. I'm not tired. Lucas paused, then leaned over and kissed her cheek. Don't, I'm sweaty. By the time they left the complex, the sky had darkened. The streetlights flickered on one by one, illuminating the surroundings. The November night was quiet, the chirping of insects long gone. A cold evening breeze brushed against their faces, and Lucas shivered involuntarily. Looks like we can't make it to the furniture store, Lily said from the curb, her eyes reflecting the passing cars. It's all my fault for taking so long. Lucas gently took her hand, noticing it was a little cold. He cupped it with his other hand and blew warm air onto it. It doesn't matter. One more day won't change anything. Besides, he was pretty sure he was the main reason they'd taken so long. Once in the car, Lucas finally started to warm up. He let Lily pick a place for dinner while he happily browsed for dresses online. This was the best part of having a girlfriend who was more beautiful than any model. It was way more fun than any dress-up game. A sailor uniform counts as a dress, right? Lucas asked with a wicked grin. It's too cold to wear out now, but you could wear it home. Lily shrank toward the car door. Can we just forget about this? Then I'll just spend the money on a designer. I'll wear it. I'll wear it. Just remember it, okay? The girl said weakly. She leaned her head against the window, her eyes vacant, a picture of utter despair. She had dug this pit for herself. Now she had to jump in, tears and all. Lily, how did you manage to give in again? A moment later, Lily said, her voice still flat, starting tomorrow, I'm going to work even harder on my art to make money. Why? Lucas asked, confused. You're such a spendthrift. If there ever comes a day when I have to support you, I'm afraid I won't be able to afford it. Lucas looked at her, completely baffled. Don't be ridiculous. There's no man alive who's better at managing a household than me. For a second, he was too stunned to even process the fact that she still hadn't given up on her dream of supporting him. Really, Lily didn't believe a word of his nonsense. She was still recovering from the despair of having to wear all those frilly outfits. Of course, Jason has dropped thousands of dollars on video games alone, Lucas said with disdain. At least I'm spending my money in the real world. Sorry, Jason. You're taking one for the team. We're buddies. When I'm in a jam, you've got to be the shield. Every guy has used his friends as an alibi for his girlfriend, right? That's what best friends are for. Drinking, fishing, all-nighters at the arcade? Don't ask. My buddy dragged me along. But in all honesty, he was far more of a spendthrift than Jason. After all, he had paid for her mother's surgery in full when they were just dating. But that was money he had earned himself, and he could spend it however he pleased. No one else had the right to say anything. Lily gasped. Spending that much money on games was something she couldn't even fathom. Thank goodness her little virtual plants only needed sunlight, not cash. Just like that, Lucas didn't seem like such a spendthrift anymore. If he ever dared to waste money like that, she would definitely headbutt him. Have you decided what you want for dinner? Lucas asked softly. Whatever you want is fine. I'm okay with anything, Lily said timidly. Lucas poked her on the forehead. Anything is banned. I could cook for you, but we're already out. Lucas tapped the steering wheel a couple of times. Forget it, I'll pick. Lily suddenly looked hurt. You don't want to eat my cooking? This was truly one of her greatest fears. She had spent so long studying his tastes and preferences. I'm just worried you're too tired. Someone was working like a little ox back there, without even taking a break. I'm not an ox. Lily shot him a mournful look and leaned back against her seat, letting him drive wherever he wanted. Fine, then you're Squirtle. You hit me so hard. Lucas grumbled, focusing on the road. That little calf really packed a punch. They chatted back and forth on the road, and the 15-minute drive flew by. Lucas chose a grilled fish restaurant. In front of the entrance stood a plastic mascot with a Disney-esque design, its wide mouth smiling, a fish cradled in its arms. He pointed at the mascot and deliberately shouted, Lily, I choose you. Use rocket headbutt. Seeing no reaction, he turned his head curiously and found that Lily had fallen asleep. The car was quiet enough that he could faintly hear her breathing. She was sleeping peacefully, her breaths light and even. Her hands were clasped in her lap, her head resting gently against the window. She looked proper and sweet. A slight smile played on her lips. He wondered if she was having a pleasant dream. Seeing her rosy lips, Lucas felt an urge to lean in and kiss her, but not wanting to wake her. He just leaned over and gently poked her soft cheek. Lily's brow furrowed slightly, and he quickly pulled his hand back. Thankfully, she just shifted her position and fell back into a deep sleep. Silly goofball. And she said she wasn't tired. He had to admit, she fell asleep incredibly fast when she was with him. She always seemed to doze off when he wasn't looking, which proved he wasn't a pervert at all. A gentleman is a gentleman. Lucas smiled smugly, settled back into his seat, and quietly watched the night scene outside the window. Lily groggily opened her eyes to see Lucas sitting there with a blank expression, seemingly deep in thought. The car's interior lights were off, and the dim glow from his phone cast shadows on his face, reflecting in his eyes. Only she could recognize it as the expression he wore when he was thinking about work. We're here. Lucas's lips curled into a smile. We've been here for over an hour. Why didn't you wake me? Lily quickly sat up straight, rubbing her eyes. Her voice was muffled with sleep. Lucas put down his phone and took her hand. I was going to take you to a hotel and have my wicked way with you, but I changed my mind. Pervert. It had become a routine. Lucas would make a token perverted comment, and Lily would dutifully reply with a token insult. They had developed a strange sort of rhythm in that regard. After getting out of the car, Lily looked at Lucas's profile and felt a mix of confusion and affection. That was the strange thing about him. He wouldn't just say, let's eat and go home so you can sleep. Most of the time, he would simply choose not to disturb her, letting her rest first. Lily didn't know if she would have that kind of patience. She'd never had to. What if you spoil me rotten? The girl asked, genuinely worried. Huh, that'll be the day pigs fly, Lucas snorted. You have no idea how stubborn you are, Miss Thompson. He had to coax and trick her just to get her to accept this simple gift. The usual tactics of buying lipstick and makeup to appease a girlfriend were completely useless on her. Spoiled rotten? It was hilarious she even thought of that. He couldn't help but chuckle. Her thought process was truly bizarre. "You're too good to me," Lily said, her head bowed as she linked her arm with his. The streets were still busy with people coming and going. The two of them were drawing quite a few stares. She was already beautiful to begin with, and now that Lucas occasionally forced her to dress up, she was an absolute showstopper. Lucas stopped in the middle of the crowd and looked down at the girl beside him. "Let's be real for a second. The world has never been particularly kind to you. So what's wrong with me spoiling you a little?" Lily fell silent, just holding his arm tighter as they walked the rest of the way without a word. They arrived at the grilled fish restaurant. "Don't you dislike fish?" Lily asked curiously as soon as they sat down. She remembered his food preferences perfectly. It was strange. She used to like fish before she met him, but since she cooked it less often, she had slowly started to dislike it too. "I'm here to help you try things you've never had before. It's part of experiencing life," Lucas said with a calm expression, scanning the QR code on the table to order. Lily rested her chin on her hand, still feeling a little sleepy. "You remembered that," she said, her voice soft and sweet. She had been taken aback when he'd told her at school not to hide behind him anymore. She thought he had forgotten and was planning to go back to being a silly goofball who only had to interact with him. But it seemed that hope was gone. He had clearly been thinking about it all along. "What do you mean, remembered? We only made 2 promises. Besides helping you get better, the other was to show you all sorts of things you've never experienced," Lucas said seriously. Halfway through, he suddenly felt like he was an NPC delivering quest dialogue. "You're so strict," Lily mumbled, laying her head on the table. "These are the only 2 things you're not allowed to slack on," Lucas said with a shrug. "I told you before, I could support you and let you be a carefree little dork. You didn't want that, so you have to accept these standards. I call it the official girlfriend performance review." Lily's interest was piqued. She sat up straight. "So what's my score?" Lucas met her gaze, his expression unreadable. 0. Lily's mouth fell open, her clear eyes wide with shock, as if she'd been struck by lightning. "Why?" she asked again. A 0 was a devastating blow to a good girl like her. "Because it's a points-based system. You do well, I give you points. The max is 10, and 6 is a passing grade. When you pass, I swear I'll give you a reward you'll never forget for the rest of your life." He excitedly opened the Notes app on his phone and started typing furiously. You can also choose to spend your points on a prize draw. 1 point per draw, with various rewards. Or you can take 1 free draw a week, but you might get a penalty. Isn't that fun? He was starting to sound like he was in game dev mode. "What are the rewards?" Lily asked dazedly. "Haven't decided yet. Maybe trips to different places or a new drawing tablet. The grand prize is I'll grant you any one wish, plus I'll give you a veto card to stop me from being a pervert. And the penalties?" The girl thought this actually sounded kind of fun. And that veto card sounded incredibly useful. She felt like her safety was constantly at risk. If only Aaron had given her such a fun system. Her own official boyfriend performance review was nowhere near this entertaining. Lucas flashed a harmless smile. "For instance, wearing black stockings for me. I'm docking 1 point from your official boyfriend performance review," Lily said, puffing out her cheeks. This guy never had a single wholesome thought. Lucas unwrapped a pair of disposable chopsticks and placed them on her bowl. "Weren't you just moved to tears a minute ago? And now you're docking my points." Lily pouted. "Fine, I won't." Lucas snickered to himself. His system was a refined version of hers, having absorbed its essence while discarding the impurities. It was far more effective. If he had followed her model, he wouldn't have been able to resist giving her a high starting score, which would have defeated the purpose. A point-based system, with additions only, was far better. He was a genius. Just as Lily was about to say something else, her phone buzzed. It was a message from Aaron. "Aaron, what are you doing?" "Lily, eating dinner. Grilled fish." A series of voice messages from Aaron popped up. Lily hesitated for a second, then pressed play. "Aaron, voicemail, I'm working overtime. Your boyfriend is a monster, you know that. Work has been crazy lately. So he started this contest where the last person to leave gets quadruple overtime pay plus a gift card. Now half the art team is still here, just waiting each other out. Aaron, voicemail, I figured I'd give a shot. So I stayed for an extra hour, but there were still so many people left. I just packed up my stuff, but then I thought, I've already stayed an extra hour, it would be such a waste to give up now. The more sunk costs I had, the less I wanted to leave, so I've been stuck here until now. Aaron, voicemail, and the worst part is, he explicitly said this situation doesn't qualify for regular overtime pay. He's a monster. He's the devil." Her shouts echoed through the restaurant, and the atmosphere at their table froze for a few seconds. "Lily, I'm having dinner with Lucas." "Aaron, my apologies." Putting her phone down, Lily felt a wave of awkwardness. She peeked at Lucas, curious to see his reaction. He was resting his chin on one hand, watching her with a deadpan expression. When he saw her look up, he raised an eyebrow. "Tell her I heard everything," Lucas said with a smile. "Aaron says she will definitely live up to your expectations and that you shouldn't dock her pay." Lily relayed a moment later in a small voice. Lucas picked up a piece of fish and put it in his mouth. "Do you know why Aaron has the highest salary in the company?" Lily shook her head blankly. "Because the extra is just for me to dock for fun." Lucas felt like every restaurant around him these days was a chain, especially bubble tea and barbecue joints. This grilled fish place was no exception, but there was a clear advantage to eating at chains. While the food might not be amazing, it was unlikely to be terrible. The chances of a complete disaster were slim. This place, for example, was great in every way except for being too spicy. Lucas chugged his iced Coke to quell the fire in his mouth. "Actually, sometimes I think it's a good thing that you're a pervert," Lily said suddenly, her expression a little sad. "How so?" Lucas asked, confused, forgetting to put his Coke down. "Because you're just too amazing. So amazing that it feels like you're not someone I could ever reach, not someone who would want to be with a person like me. This side of you. It makes you feel more real," Lily said, struggling to find the right words. Lucas didn't speak. He just picked up his phone, opened the front-facing camera, and held it up in front of her. "Do you have any idea how much more beautiful you are than other girls?" he asked softly. Lily bit her lip, unsure if she should be happy or sad. Then Lucas spoke again. "And in my eyes, being beautiful is the least interesting of all your qualities. So now do you understand just how wonderful you are?" Lily lowered her head, and, after a long moment, she let out a soft They were nearly finished with their meal when Lily saw a little girl holding a cotton candy walk into the restaurant. It immediately reminded her of the adorable little girl she'd spent the day with at the amusement park. "I wonder what Maya is doing right now," she asked softly. Maya was so cute and well-behaved. She really adored her. Probably crying her eyes out while doing her homework. And Emma. She missed Emma too. Her world was simple. She only had a handful of people to miss. "Oh, don't you worry about her. She's not the crying type. I bet you 50 cents she's sleeping through her evening study hall right now." Lucas's gaze also fell on the little girl with the cotton candy. "You miss Maya? Don't worry. She'll definitely be around a lot. Maybe we can get Emma to babysit her sometime. See which one of them can handle the other." He was suddenly very keen to see that showdown. Thanks to his parents' outstanding character, his family was well-liked by everyone. Combined with Robert's extensive network, they had a constant stream of relatives visiting. Maya's parents were particularly close with Robert and Emily, so it was likely Maya would be over again soon. Seeing Lily place a piece of fish on his plate, Lucas had a sudden idea. "I'm so tired. Can you feed me?" Unexpectedly, Lily's face turned beet red. She quickly ducked her head, turning away. "What's wrong with you? Why are you blushing just because I asked you to feed me?" Lucas was baffled. She had fed him before without this reaction. Lily's mouth opened and closed several times, but no sound came out. After a long struggle, she finally managed to squeeze out a few words. Call me boss." "Boss," Lucas said without a moment's hesitation. To wait even a second would be a betrayal of his title as a master of the long game. He let out a silent laugh. A goofball was a goofball. Why was she so eager to play, yet so bad at it? All passion, no skill. That was her in a nutshell. Lily froze completely, her expression dazed, her bright eyes filled with confusion. This isn't right. This isn't how I imagined it at all. Shouldn't he have blushed, his heart racing, and then refused out of embarrassment? Or at the very least, gotten a little flustered? But he hadn't paused for even a second. How could his skin be this thick? "Lily, my boss, are you daydreaming?" Seeing her lack of reaction, Lucas moved to the other side of the table and sat down next to her to repeat himself. The word sent a jolt through Lily's heart. She immediately surrendered. Don't say it anymore. I was wrong." Lucas had a boyishly handsome face to begin with. If he kept this up, she was going to develop a new kink, even if she didn't have one. Every time he said it, it felt like an electric current shot through her. Who could stand that? The more she thought about it, the hotter her cheeks became. She buried her face in his shoulder, playing ostrich again. Lucas shrugged nonchalantly. "What's the big deal? I don't care at all. If you like hearing it, I'll call you that every day." Plus, the black dress Lily was wearing today already gave off a rather commanding vibe, which eased his conscience even more. "You only think it's no big deal because you're a total pervert." Lily whined. She was so mortified that her voice trembled. Combined with her flushed cheeks, she looked even more adorable. "And I don't even like it. I just wanted to see you get all flustered, she explained haltingly. Ms. Thompson, has it ever occurred to you that this kind of thinking is also a little perverted? Not done playing, Lucas continued to tease her. He felt like steam was about to start pouring out of her ears. He leaned in close to her ear. Would a normal person want to see their boyfriend get all flustered? You're still talking. Lily looked up at him, her eyes glistening with unshed tears, looking like she was on the verge of crying if he bullied her any further. Lucas laughed and ruffled her hair. Okay, I'll stop. This girl was such a poor sport. She started the fight, and then she got mad. After packing up, the two of them walked out of the restaurant side by side. The streets were no longer as crowded as before. Only a few people hurried past, shivering and pulling their coats tighter. It was after 10 o'clock now, and it was getting seriously cold. Lucas draped his own jacket over her shoulders. He was about to take a deep breath when a blast of cold air shot up his nose, nearly making it run. Of all the times to suddenly miss summer. Summer is so much better, Lucas said, shrinking his neck into his collar as they neared the car. He had clearly forgotten all the times he had cursed the summer heat. The cold air had a sobering effect. Even Master Lucas had calmed down. I suddenly feel like we're both pretty weird with all this boss and big brother stuff, he said, glancing at the girl beside him with a small smile. He'd called her boss twice now, and she'd called him big brother once before. Don't talk about it, Lily said, gently patting his back. The jacket on her shoulders swayed with the movement. Just don't. That's not fair. It's my mouth. You can't just shut me up, can you? He'd just finished speaking when he realized the girl who had been walking beside him was gone. He turned around to see Lily had stopped a few feet back, glaring at him. Her eyes shimmered with a layer of moisture, glistening under the streetlights. Her nose and the corners of her eyes were tinged with red, though it was hard to tell if it was from the cold or from frustration. I'm sore. Before he could finish his apology, Lily stood on her tiptoes and leaned in. November. The nights in Seattle were very, very cold, but this kiss was warm. A long while later, the two figures hidden behind the car finally separated. Did that shut you up? Lily pouted, repeatedly poking his lips with her index finger to vent her frustration. Regrets. So many regrets. Who could have known his skin had gotten even thicker? What am I going to do now? If I keep making concessions like this, I'll have nothing left to give. Lucas raised his hands in surrender. Yes, ma'am, he said with a small smile. Although he had surrendered, Lucas felt like he had won big today. The ball was still in his court. Lily, the naive little frog, was still sitting comfortably in the pot. He wasn't the one being boiled, and he never would be. By late November, they had finished setting up the apartment at Maple Creek Estates. The furniture they bought was mid-range. Not cheap, but not high-end either. Lily always looked at the price tag first and inevitably chose the most cost-effective option. In any case, the place was done. All that was left was to convince Sophia to move in with Lily. Lucas lay on the sofa, looking at the balance in his bank account. He felt like he had more money than he knew what to do with. If a friend suddenly texted him, "Spot me $50, he'd probably do it. The amount was less than the interest he earned in a day. It was true what they say, money makes money. As long as you weren't a complete idiot, it would likely just keep growing. Since he didn't know what to buy, he might as well use it to make more money. It was time to get the snowball rolling. There was no harm in working hard to give this goofball a better life. Just as Lucas was pondering what to do with the money, he heard the sound of a key in the lock. When Lily had afternoon classes, she always came here for lunch. It had become their routine. After the door opened, the girl didn't come right in. Instead, she peeked her head in, her eyes darting around. After making eye contact with a confused Lucas, she scanned the room one more time before finally stepping inside. She even glanced back down the hallway before closing the door. Anyone who knew would say it was the lady of the house returning. Anyone who didn't would think a burglar had just broken in. A very beautiful burglar at that. You little thief, breaking into my house. If I tie you up and have my way with you, does that count as self-defense? Lucas said, tossing a pile of documents onto the coffee table with a deadpan expression. If he hadn't already graduated, he would have definitely debated this with a law professor. I used a key. Lily mumbled, her focus always on the strangest details. She placed her bag on the coffee table, and her textbooks spilled out. Lucas glanced at them and couldn't resist a jab. People say C++ goes from hello, world to goodbye, world. For you, accounting is going from assets to arrested. You're just talking nonsense. Lily huffed, tying her hair into a ponytail and heading for the kitchen. I'm going to make lunch. I'll cook today, Lucas said, guiding her back to the sofa and taking over kitchen duty. When he wasn't being a pervert, his conscience did occasionally make an appearance. I feel like I could make that grilled fish we had the other day at home, Lucas said, opening the fridge and spotting the fish staring back at him with dead eyes. He'd bought it that night after seeing how much Lily enjoyed the fish, and it had been lying in the fridge for days. Lily was sitting cross-legged on the floor with her laptop, mimicking Lucas's usual pose. Hearing his comment, she smiled. Then you should learn. We could save a lot of money by not eating out. A foolish proposal. I could make more money working in the time it would take me to learn to cook, Lucas retorted, grabbing a bundle of spinach. I'll make you noodles for lunch today. You can cook the fish tomorrow. Fair. Okay. As he stepped into the kitchen, he saw an 8-legged creature crawling across his hand and onto a bowl. Lucas's pupils contracted. First off, crushing a spider the size of his thumbnail with his bare hands was out of the question. It was too disgusting. But if he put the bowl down to get a paper towel, it would be gone. And what's more terrifying than a spider disappearing right in front of you? The answer was obvious. A bowl wasn't worth much. He wanted it dead. With a loud crack, he smashed the bowl, pinpointed the spider's location, and stomped on it, grinding his foot for good measure. Before he could even begin to clean up the crime scene, Lily had rushed over. What happened? She asked nervously. There was a bug. The man who had just been terrified by a spider was now the picture of calm. Lily seemed to let out a breath of relief. She walked over and patted his head. Silly boyfriend. Lucas looked at her, noticing she was trembling slightly. Why are you more scared than me, the one who's afraid of bugs? This goofball wasn't afraid of bugs at all. She had even caught crickets to show him when they were in the mountains. He was completely baffled. Lily had been acting especially timid lately, like a little fawn, startled by every little noise. After lunch, they fell back into their usual routine. Lucas sat cross-legged on the sofa, working while Lily sat at her desk, drawing intently. He received a message from Leo telling him to come to the office, replied with a get lost sticker, and put his phone away. He was extremely annoyed with Leo right now. That guy was the overtime champion every single day, practically living at the office, always the last one to leave. So much for that. His brilliant plan to incentivize overtime had fizzled out because no one could compete with that guy. Lucas rubbed his tired eyes, walked over to the girl, and tapped her on the shoulder. Hey. Ah. Lily jumped as if she'd been electrocuted, her drawing pen clattering to the floor unnoticed. Lucas was speechless. He reached out and pulled her into his arms. Are you silly? What is wrong with you? Lily rubbed her cheek against Lucas's arm. It's nothing. Lucas scratched her cheek like he was petting a cat. You know what you've been acting like these past 2 days? You're exactly like I was as a kid after watching a horror movie. The way she'd been working on her laptop for a bit, then looking over her shoulder, terrified someone was watching her. It was a carbon copy of his childhood self. You figured it out? Lily asked, surprised. Lucas looked at her in disbelief. You watch a horror movie? Yeah, no wonder you're so jumpy. Lucas remembered being so scared after watching I Am Legend as a kid that he couldn't sleep for nearly a month without the lights on. When he rewatched it as an adult, he could finally appreciate the plot and realized it was actually a fantastic movie. He'd rewatched it 4 or 5 times since. A person's courage naturally grows with age. For one, you develop a clearer understanding of what's real and what's not. For another, the more people you meet, the more you realize that straightforward zombies are far more likable than many malicious people. At least they're direct about wanting to kill you, instead of smiling to your face while plotting to ruin your life behind your back. This goofball was barely familiar with the internet, so it was normal for her reaction to a horror movie to be on par with his childhood self. After all, he still wasn't a huge fan of looking under the bed. Why were you watching a horror movie for no reason? Lucas asked with a smile. If he had known horror movies were this effective, he would have used them long ago. I didn't want to. Lily looked extremely aggrieved. What do you mean you didn't want to? Lucas was even more confused. Could someone be forced to watch a horror movie? Was anyone really that bored? Wait, actually there was one person he could think of who was exactly that bored. Lily slowly shook her head. It's nothing. She gently took his hand and pointed at the female character she had drawn on the screen. Is she pretty? She asked softly. She's beautiful, Lucas said sincerely. This goofball seemed to love drawing characters from his games, especially the ones he had personally helped design. Then he noticed something else that was very wrong. The drawing she had just posted had over 200 comments. Hold on. Lucas took the mouse, clicked on her profile, and scrolled up. What he saw was astonishing. She had over 10,000 followers. It's only been a few months, and you're already famous? He rubbed his eyes several times before he could believe what he was seeing. Was his girlfriend going to become some kind of master artist one day? He never knew he had the good fortune to be a kept man. Lily's eyes were downcast, her voice tinged with disappointment. It seems like it's just my art style that's popular. I keep getting criticized for my technique and anatomy. What are you sad about? That's a good thing. Lucas said, poking her on the head. Anatomy is a fundamental skill you can practice and improve over time. But a unique style is much harder to develop. An art style is even more distinctive than handwriting. Everyone's is different. When you can establish your own unique style like Lop, your anatomy won't matter as much. It will catch up eventually. Lily suddenly felt that Lucas had a point. He always saw things much more clearly than she did. But you probably won't be as famous as your boyfriend, Lucas said suddenly. What? Nothing. Lucas glanced at the draft of a legal letter on the coffee table, a barely perceptible smile on his lips. A little later, Lucas was lying in bed, letting out a lazy yawn. He didn't feel like dealing with Leo today, so he wasn't in a hurry to go to the office. It couldn't be anything major, just another one of Leo's new ideas. This was a lesson for Leo on the importance of understanding the boss's mood. It definitely wasn't because he was too lazy to go to the office. Hurry up and come to bed, Lucas urged kindly. Hearing him, Lily timidly walked in from the other room and stood in front of him. She bit her lower lip and said in a voice as soft as a mosquito's buzz, "Will you come with me to the bathroom while I shower?" "Do you know what you're saying?" Lucas shot up, thinking, is this for real? "Well, I'm not tired anymore." Lily finally realized the ambiguity in her words. "I didn't mean for you to come in with me." "Then I'm not going." Lucas flopped back onto the bed, all his previous enthusiasm gone. "Please, I'm scared." Lily's voice grew even quieter. "I'm afraid something's going to crawl out of the toilet." I think any ghost with a remotely normal IQ would choose a different entrance. Though he said that, Lucas obediently got up and walked with her to the bathroom door. "Didn't you shower at home last night?" Lucas asked curiously, listening to the sound of the shower. His feelings were complicated. He and Lily were separated by just a single wall, and the sound of the running water was far too suggestive. No wonder some people said they could eat 3 bowls of rice to that sound. "That was at night. I was too scared." The girl's trembling voice, mixed with the sound of water, came from the bathroom. "And I couldn't ask my mom to wait for me like this." "But your boyfriend can be ordered around like this?" "I'm telling you, this is going to be bad for my mental and physical health. I'll make it up to you later." "Deal." Lucas cheerfully accepted the IOU she had just signed and continued to stand at the door, chatting with her. He took out his phone and began to interrogate the prime suspect in this case. "Lucas, Lily's been super jumpy lately. Any idea why?" "Aaron, maybe because the gif I sent her freaked her out." "Lucas, no wonder she wouldn't tell me." "Aaron, maybe she was afraid you'd dock my pay." "Aaron has retracted a message." "Lucas, thanks for the reminder." "Deliberately scaring the boss's girlfriend? Your bonus is gone." "Aaron, you're a real piece of work," Lucas thought. "My girlfriend is already a goofball, and you go and scare her. How cruel." He cursed her silently and sent another message. "Send it to me." He was completely unimpressed. Scary gifs and chain messages threatening bad luck were things that were played out when he was in elementary school. He couldn't believe someone could still be scared by that stuff today. A few seconds later, Lucas's phone clattered to the floor. He pressed his back against the wall, his breathing ragged. "Damn, that's actually pretty scary." The worst ones were always the ones that looked normal except for a slightly creepy background. And just when you start to think it's frozen, the scary thing pops out. "What's wrong?" Lily opened the door and poked her head out to ask. Her nerves were already on edge, and she had acted without thinking. "Nothing." Lucas's words caught in his throat. He froze on the spot. He finally understood the true meaning of the phrase, "a vision fresh from the water." The ancients were not lying. He didn't know how much time had passed before he could finish a sentence. Water was still dripping from Lily's hair, and a few glistening droplets clung to her beautiful collarbone, slowly trickling down. Before Lucas could react, Lily had shrunk back into the bathroom, leaving only a mortified squeal behind her. "You pervert." Perhaps because she was so embarrassed, Lily refused to speak for a long time. After a while, she finally emerged, dressed, her cheeks flushed. She glanced at Lucas, then quickly lowered her head and walked step by step toward the bedroom. "I swear I didn't see anything." Lucas hurried over to explain. He was actually quite innocent. Never mind whether anyone could resist looking in that situation. The problem was he really hadn't seen anything. Or rather, he had looked, but his brain hadn't had time to process it. It was just a split-second glimpse, and his eyes didn't know where to focus. Not to mention, this goofball had reacted so quickly, crossing her arms in front of herself to block the view. "If I saw anything, don't make stupid vows," Lily said, turning to him and pressing her index finger to his lips. Her eyes were moist. "Anyway, it's not like anyone else saw," she mumbled before diving under the covers, leaving only a few strands of her long hair visible. Lucas didn't hear her clearly. "What did you say?" he asked, leaning closer. "Nothing." The round lump of blankets moved like a monster, and a muffled voice came from within. "Put your hand in." Lucas thought she wanted to hold hands and eagerly stuck his hand under the covers. Then, the blanket monster bit him. It didn't hurt at all, but because it was unexpected, Lucas was still startled. Horror movies were a bad influence. They were making him jumpy too. He looked at the faint teeth marks on his hand and couldn't help but smile. He took a piece of candy from his pocket, held it in his palm, and stuck his hand back in. This time, he wasn't bitten. It seemed the blanket monster was pleased with this offering. "Want to take a nap?" Lucas asked softly, leaning over. The blanket monster rolled from side to side, but didn't speak. Lucas's lips curled into a smile. He went to the living room, grabbed a piece of A4 paper, folded it into a paper rose, and offered it to the monster. Unfortunately, the blanket monster still did not respond to its most devout follower. Just as Lucas was trying to think of a new offering, the blanket monster suddenly opened its cavernous mouth and swallowed him whole. The previously bright surroundings instantly became dim. Lucas was pinned underneath the girl, who was looking at him with flushed cheeks. "Why are you so lewd?" Lily said, poking his forehead. "I'm innocent. I didn't expect you to suddenly stick your head out. There was a loud noise outside, and I was worried about you," Lily said, then propped herself up and slowly moved her gaze from his eyes downward. "And also, I was talking about." Lucas cleared his throat awkwardly. "That's just a natural reaction. All guys are like that." Lily pouted and lay back down on top of him. "You always have an excuse." "You're not mad, are you?" the girl asked after a moment of silence. "Why would I be mad? I was afraid you'd think I didn't want you to see anything." I was just too shy." Lucas reached out and stroked her head, his hand following the line of her long hair down to her waist. "Don't overthink it, and I'm not in a hurry. You'll be all mine sooner or later anyway." After he said that, he felt her hot cheek bury itself in his neck. After a long moment, he heard her let out a soft, "If you're not shy now, you could show me." Hearing this, Lily propped herself up again and head-butted him on the forehead. Lucas couldn't help but hiss. This goofball had a head of steel. "Want a nap? You have a full schedule of classes this afternoon, right?" "Let's sleep like this," the girl said, lying back down on him. She hugged him even tighter. "I'm still scared. Aaron is so cruel, scaring my girlfriend like this," Lucas said with a smile, kissing her on the forehead. "Then don't move around, or you'll have to face the consequences." Feeling her warm breath and the soft weight pressing against him, Lucas's mood became even more complicated. This was truly a case of painful pleasure. "Oh," Lily responded dazedly, then said nervously, It's moving." Lucas wanted to die. Evening. After the last class of the day ended, Aaron watched Lily diligently pack her things and asked with a wicked grin, "Do you need me to escort you to your dear boyfriend?" Honestly, she hadn't expected Lily to be so scared by that gift. But as a single person forced to watch their PDA every day, seeing Lily terrified by the gift she sent gave her a strange sense of satisfaction. It felt great. Feel the wrath of a single person, you silly goofball. Lily gave her a slightly reproachful look, but still said gently, "Lucas told me to go to the apartment after class." This goofball was always so gentle. "You sure you don't need me to walk you?" Aaron asked again. After the initial satisfaction, she was starting to feel a little guilty. Lily shook her head. "It's not dark yet. I'll be fine. You're such a scaredy cat. Be more like me," Aaron said, patting her own chest, a gesture only she could get away with in public. "That stuff stopped scaring me when I was in elementary school. The startup incubator was on campus, a short bike ride away after class. Hobby Ada, Ida, Amo, do Ra na, I do Ida." Aaron hummed a cheerful tune as she walked to the office door. She pushed it open with her usual force, only to find the entire office empty. Did they go out of business? She walked dazedly to her desk, took out her phone, and opened the workgroup chat. There were no special announcements. Her confusion deepened. No notice? Just then, the lights above her flickered twice. Her heart started to pound. She stood up from her chair and quickly sent a message to the group. "Aaron, where is everyone?" Her assistant, Chloe, replied immediately. "Chloe, what do you mean, where is everyone? Where are you?" "Aaron, didn't your class end? How come you're not here yet?" "Aaron, I'm here. The office is empty." Chloe, confused. "JPG, what are you talking about? We're all here." She then sent a video. In the video, Chloe was holding her phone and panning around the office. Everyone was at their desks, as usual. The hardworking ones were still hard at work, and the ones who liked to slack off were still slacking off. After watching the video, Aaron's hand holding the phone dropped limply to her side. A chill shot up her spine, making her scalp tingle. She quickly looked up. The office was still completely empty, a stark contrast to the video. Seeing the dark, cloudy sky outside, she really started to get scared. Just as she was about to leave, all the lights in the office suddenly went out. Erin felt her legs turn to jelly. She was about to run when she heard Chloe's voice again. Erin! She mustered her last bit of courage and walked over, only to find a phone playing a recording. Trying to scare me, huh? Erin said with a sigh of relief and a small, mocking laugh. As soon as the words left her mouth, the phone spoke again. Erin, turn around. Erin whipped her head around and saw a person in a ghost face costume standing right behind her, their head tilted to one side. Ah! Erin was so scared she almost collapsed onto the floor. I don't want to die. I've never even been in love. She wailed, her eyes squeezed shut. She kept them closed for a long time, but none of the deaths she imagined came to pass. Tentatively, Erin opened her eyes. She saw that the ghost had taken off its mask and hood. Underneath was the face of Leo Jenkins. No, wait, it was Leo Jenkins. Hey, Lucas, she screamed too loud. I didn't get to say my line, Leo said, disappointed that he had failed a mission from Lucas for the first time. Erin's screams had completely drowned him out. If she hadn't been so terrified, he would have been the one feeling awkward. Erin still hadn't fully recovered. She leaned weakly against the desk, her mouth slightly agape. She looked up to see Lucas strolling in, saying calmly, "It doesn't matter." The effect was achieved. He then smiled at Erin. Also, your last words were truly bizarre. Lucas felt it was a bit of shame. He had planned out so many steps, but who would have thought Erin wouldn't even make it past the first wave? There was supposed to be a chase scene next. The extras he hired to play zombies outside were all for nothing. He was willing to bet that the plan was so elaborate it would have convinced anyone who wasn't in on it. This was the price for bullying Lily. After the lights in the office came back on, Lucas clapped his hands, and a group of people who had been hiding outside the door filed in. They were all dressed in costumes that looked like they had been borrowed from a horror movie set, their faces made up to match. To an outsider, it would have looked like a horror film was being shot here. What a pity. If you were just a little braver, you could have experienced all of this, Lucas said with a sigh of mock regret. Some people would probably pay for an experience this elaborate. By now, Erin had completely recovered. She glared at him, furious. Thanks so much for feeling sorry for me. What kind of person was he? Just for scaring your girlfriend a little. She was still a bit shaken, her heart pounding. She was secretly glad she hadn't actually burst into tears. How would she ever live that down? After some commotion, the costume group decided to play a few rounds of a live-action mystery game. When they got bored, they packed up and left. Lucas watched Chloe trying to explain that she had been threatened, and Erin glaring at him, her canine teeth biting her lip in a mix of grievance and anger. He couldn't help but let out a small, secret smile. A smile never disappears from one person's face. It just transfers to another's. Boss, is that it for the team building? I did my makeup for nothing, a girl with a pale face and painted-on veins said, walking over with a bored expression. Just think of it as getting off work early today. We can save the props for the next team-building event. The girl's interest was immediately piqued. When's the next one? The next time someone bullies the boss's girlfriend. Her excited expression slowly went numb. She sighed and turned to leave. This was the first time she had ever felt such a sense of a distant, unattainable future. After this, who would dare to bully the boss's girlfriend? Everyone knew now. She might be a goofball, but messing with her would result in extreme retaliation from a certain someone. It was total overkill. Maybe it was because he was rich and could do whatever he wanted, but this guy probably didn't even consider the cost. Erin's reaction was already considered brave for a girl. If it had been her, the girl sucked in a breath. It was too scary to even think about. The boss was both smart and a psycho. A dangerous combination. She would never slack off again for fear of getting on his bad side and ending up the star of the next event. As the office emptied out, Lucas was about to text Lily. Lucas, come to the office. I have something fun to show you. Lily, it's dark outside. I am scared. Lucas's mouth twitched in annoyance. This goofball's courage, which wasn't much to begin with, had probably been set back several years. It was clear Lily had never been exposed to anything scary before, which was why she had zero tolerance for it. It's kind of cute, though. Lily, what are you doing? I made your favorite dish. Can you come back soon? Lucas, on my way. Just finishing up getting revenge for you. He put his phone down and walked over to a sullen Erin. See if you dare to bully the boss's girlfriend again, Lucas said, rapping his knuckles on the table threateningly. He then added, and from now on, no more teaching her those ridiculous self-defense tricks to ruin my fun. Got it. Chloe told me you even threatened her with her salary to get her to help you, Erin said angrily. Lucas, let me tell you, you can't just do whatever you want because you're rich. Lucas picked up a pair of sunglasses from the table and put them on. Sorry, but with money, you really can do whatever you want. He looked up at Leo, who was typing away at his keyboard. Leo, am I right? Right. Leo clearly hadn't been listening, but that was the response Lucas wanted. Lucas turned back to Erin, who had defiance written all over her face. What? You don't believe me? The next second, he transferred $10,000 to her. Money can buy you anything. If it can't, it just means you don't have enough. Erin gritted her teeth and didn't accept the transfer, continuing to glare at him. A mere $10,000 to buy her off? What a joke. Who did he take her for? Lucas was unfazed. He sent another $10,000. Just think about how many new games that is. Before Erin could speak, he sent another $20,000. Erin stared at the $40,000 in transfers, swallowing hard. Suddenly, the nature of their conversation seemed to have changed. A very rich guy who just keeps sending you money without saying a word, and then ups the ante when you don't react. The meaning was pretty clear, wasn't it? This was a plot straight out of soap opera. The rich male lead trying to make a move on his wife's best friend. But she wasn't nearly as pretty as Lily. She looked at the sum, her resolve wavering. Finally, with determination, she slammed her phone on the table. I don't want your stupid money. I can't betray Lily. Lucas took off the sunglasses, looking at her blankly. Wow, sisterhood is powerful. I mean, it is your boss's girlfriend's money, technically, but are you really turning down your salary? Willing to work for free for the sake of friendship? You're a real saint. This is my salary. Erin suddenly felt a wave of awkwardness. Lucas shrugged. What did you think it was? The company's growing. Your and Leo's salaries have to go up too. Leo looked up from his work. Lucas gave me mine when he got back this evening. I'm out of here. The boss's girlfriend is waiting for me to come home for dinner, Lucas said, leaving them with nothing but a cool view of his back. It was a long time before Erin's blood pressure returned to normal. Then she shouted, Lucas, you are a real son of a bitch. Erin, we can't win against the boss. Let's just not provoke him anymore. Chloe, sitting next to Erin, said timidly, holding her hand. She looked like an innocent victim of a ruthless boss. This only made Erin angrier. She tapped Chloe on the head with her drawing pen. You traitor. You taking a side too? What happened to our sisterhood? I just don't get it. Why are you all so blinded by him? Leo, Lucas's #1 fan, seemed to have just finished a task. He cleared his throat. Because Lucas is just that good. The company was under a lot of pressure, and everyone was working nonstop overtime for a long time. This was just his way of throwing a small team-building event under the guise of getting revenge on you. When he came back, the first thing he did was announce a payday off for tomorrow. Then, after everyone who didn't want to participate had left, he started setting this up. See, whether they chose to participate or not, everyone had a good time. He achieved his goal, and it didn't cost as much as a typical corporate event. If he hadn't considered everyone's experience, he wouldn't have prepared all the materials for the murder mystery game, let alone hired a professional host. Erin was stunned. She looked down and saw that her monthly salary had gone from $2,000 to $10,000, then from $10,000 to $20,000, and now had doubled again to $40,000. How did the boss suddenly seem so smart and generous? It seemed like sticking with Lucas had a very bright future. Erin suddenly felt a sense of loyalty, and Lucas really was willing to share the profits with him. She started to worry about Lily's future married life. She couldn't even imagine how this devious man would wrap that poor goofball around his little finger. Downstairs, Lucas ran into Jason, who was rushing over. It's a day off, and you're still coming in? Lucas asked. Jason scratched his head awkwardly. I came to eat. No, I came to work overtime. Perfect timing for overtime. Leo is working on a Perry mechanic. If you came for the drama, you're too late. After hearing Lucas's recount of the events, Jason couldn't help but swear. Damn, you're a sick bastard of a boss. He then threw an arm around Lucas's shoulder. Got a video? Not that I want to see Erin cry. I just want to see our company's first team-building event. No, it's one thing to mess around, but creating blackmail material changes the nature of it. Jason wasn't disappointed. He just nodded blankly. Let's go out to eat tonight. Call up Ryan. It's been a while since we all got together. I heard he's gotten close to a cousin who's a big shot at the FCC. Tomorrow works. But why tomorrow? Jason asked curiously. Lucas smiled at him. Because I have someone at home who's cooked dinner for me. Jason? ? He'd been provoked by Lucas more than once, but this time he really couldn't take it. Jason lunged forward and put Lucas in a headlock. All right. You son of a bitch, so that's how you want to play? Don't you have a girlfriend? Get your girlfriend to cook for you, Lucas said innocently, fighting back. You bastard. Jason only got angrier. That smug look on his face was pure mockery. Get Vanessa to cook for him? Hilarious. The moment he dared to suggest it, she would make him understand the true meaning of suffering. The streetlights had come on, casting a cool glow. A group of guys who had just finished playing basketball walked past the incubator, laughing and joking. The two groups glanced at each other, neither finding the other's scene out of place. Jason pushed Lucas forward, the two of them trading friendly insults. It was a good thing there were no reporters watching them, or tomorrow's news would surely have a headline. Shocking. Founders of Polaris Interactive brawl outside company headquarters. The sounds of passers-by echoed in his ears. Lucas looked at the familiar campus scenes and the familiar person beside him, and it felt as though time had rewound several years, as if nothing had changed. Then, thinking about the reason for their reunion, he felt that some things had indeed changed. When Lucas got back to the rental apartment, Lily was sitting with her legs hugged to her chest, her chin resting on her knees, staring at her phone. Interestingly, every single light in the apartment, including the bathroom, was on. The place was lit up like it was Christmas. He sat down next to her and saw that she was staring at their chat history. If you want to tell me to hurry up, just do it. You should see how other girlfriends check up on their boyfriends. I'm locking the door. If you're not back soon, you can stay out, he said, imitating the tone his mother, Emily, used with his father, Robert. A goofball was a goofball. So scared, yet she wouldn't send him another message. All she did was say she had made his favorite dish, and then hesitated to send a second come back soon text. So silly. Lily turned off her phone screen and rested her head on his shoulder. The surroundings, which it felt like they were about to spawn monsters at any moment, suddenly felt safe. She savored the incredibly reassuring presence, subconsciously wishing he had come back sooner. But she still slowly shook her head and said softly, "It's okay." Lucas glanced at the lit rooms and ruffled her hair. "You were scared?" Lily nodded shyly. She really hated wasting electricity, but she was also really scared. After a long internal struggle, she had gritted her teeth and turned on all the lights. "I bet you were hugging your legs because you were afraid something would crawl out from under the sofa and grab your feet," Lucas said with a smile. Lily looked up at him dazedly. "How do you know everything?" But she felt that a ghost probably wouldn't be interested in her feet. Only Lucas would be. Lucas found it amusing. "Because everything you're doing right now, I did when I first watched a horror movie." Lily suddenly felt a pang of sadness, wishing Lucas would come up with a good excuse to let her stay the night. If she went home, that old apartment was already so gloomy and the bathroom faucet dripped intermittently. She couldn't sleep with the lights on, and Lucas wouldn't be there. She would be terrified. After a moment of hesitation, she sighed silently. "Let's eat." Lucas looked at the 4 dishes on the table and thought, this goofball really keeps her word. She had clearly gone all out to get him to come home early. There was a much more effective way, but it would never occur to her. "You should stay here tonight," Lucas said suddenly, halfway through the meal. Lily, who had been zoning out, immediately looked up at him. "Have you thought a new way to trick me?" Lucas blinked, confused. Why did he feel a hint of anticipation in her tone? "What are you talking about?" "I just checked my horoscope, and it said today is a bad day for travel," he said, instinctively making an excuse. "Do you think I'm an idiot?"